shit. A real fucking icebox.
By our powers combined, we give you the Galactic Family Podcast.
Hello, my name is Nick Pope, formerly from the British UFO Desk, and you're listening to the Galactic Family Podcast.
Hey, how's everyone doing in the Galactic Family Podcast world today? Today, we are joined by Tom Sewid, founder of Sasquatch Island and longtime Sasquatch researcher and cultural educator. Tom is a member of the First Nation of Northern Vancouver Island, where Sasquatch known as the Dzoonakwa, which I know I got that wrong, holds deep cultural and spiritual significance, having spent decades living and working throughout the coastal wilderness of British Columbia. Tom brings firsthand experience, Indigenous knowledge, and lived perspectives to the subject. Through Sasquatch Island, he works to educate the public on the differences between these different beings and other spiritual beings, while emphasizing respect, cultural understanding, and responsible engagement. His work focuses on preserving traditional knowledge, correcting misconceptions, and exploring the deeper connections between Sasquatch consciousness and the natural world. And now, without further ado, we're going to pull him up on the screen here after I get it figured out here. Right, there we go. Now we got to figure it out. All right, we got Tom. How you doing, Tom?
Doing good. Thanks for inviting me on.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you on. So I know I butchered the name of your tribe. What can you say it for us?
I belong to the Kwakwaka'wakw tribe from northern Vancouver Island, British Columbia, sometimes referred to as First Nations, but North American Indians. My mother is also a full-blooded Cree Indian from the Central Plains of Canada, from Saskatchewan, from the Misconceptions, Big Child tribe. So a mixture of two tribes, coastal where I was brought up and the Central Plains Indians.
So before we get into this, this great discussion, what early experiences shaped your connection to nature and the Indigenous knowledge that you now hold?
Basically, as far back as I can remember, being a young boy in Alert Bay, where I was born off northeastern Vancouver Island, and my mom and dad and others in the family looking at me when I was acting up or misbehaving. You behave yourself, Tommy. Dzoonakwa, the Sasquatch, is watching from the bush. She's not allowed to touch you, kingan on them, you children. But if you misbehave, you act up, don't do your chores, pull a temper tantrum, don't eat your food, don't clean your bedroom, Dzoonakwa is going to come at night with big hairy arm, reach in to where you're sleeping, grab you, rub spruce tree sap in your eyes so you're blind and you can't see. And she's going to throw you in her basket on her back. And that's where she's going to boil you up and eat you in the forest. And you can see over my shoulder here, what right there, that picture I drew, that's basket lady, the Dzoonakwa, with a basket on her back with a boy in the back that she put in there, and she's reaching out to grab that misbehaving child. So Dzoonakwa Sasquatch was my boogeyman and the boogeyman for many Kwakwaka'wakw and Lehwata, our southern neighbors in our territories. And, you know, that's what you heard as a kid. And then all of a sudden you'd be walking through Alert Bay and you look over and the sun's going down, you know you're misbehaving because you're not at home, it's getting dark. And then you get to the shipyard and you peek around the brown building and look at the burial ground. And there's all these, what you guys call totem poles, but they're actually memorial poles carved in red cedar logs. And at the base figure of 5 of them was this outstretched arms, puckered lip, big breast, sleepy looking eyes of the Dzoonakwa carved on those poles. and it's our highest ranked crest. So when a chief dies, they'll carve and raise a memorial totem pole 3 years or more after their death. And in most cases, they'll put a Dzoonakwa carving on there to tell people when they see that memorial totem pole that that chief in life was so wealthy that in his gildas, his box of treasure, they had the Dzoonakwa, the highest ranked crest. So it's reserved for that. So I tell people when you go to northern Vancouver Island, actually in downtown Seattle in two places as well, over in Victoria and southern Vancouver Island, which aren't our tribal territories, but you'll see these carvings of Dzoonakwa poles, and that's that powerful. That northern Vancouver Island with Campbell River, a small city, has the highest concentration of wood carvings of Dzoonakwa, Sasquatch on Earth. Than where I was born off northeastern Vancouver Island, the small island community of Alert Bay, where the Numgis Nation, that's their Indian reservation, and other tribes lives there as well from the Kwakwaka'wakw Nation of 18 tribes. It's like going on King Kong's Island. There's all these, what people would think is effigies, but they're not. They're crest figures carved into these welcoming poles, the house posts at the big ceremonial Gilksi, big house, and outside is the world's tallest totem pole with Dzoonakwa on it, and throughout that community. So Dzoonakwa is very, very powerful here in the Pacific Northwest, and a lot of tribes see the carvings of the Kwakwaka'wakw Dzoonakwa in their communities, cities, and museums, because the collectors that came in the 1800s and 1900s were amazed that we were holding such high regard to the Sasquatch.
Wow.
So, what moments or what was your first experiences that drew you towards the Sasquatch?
Yeah.
It was going to the Gilksi, the big house in Alert Bay. We'd go up there and we'd see the dancers performing for the small cruise ships that would come in the summer. And then the rest of the year, we would go up there for family potlatches and feasts and other events. And you would always see the mask and the fur regalia being depicted of the Dzoonakwa on the dance floor. And so it was always there. And then, me being Tommy 10,000 questions, I was always, what's a Dzoonakwa? Oh, it's a wild one of the woods. And they'd tell me all the stories and that. But when I was 12, my father and I were driving from city of Campbell River at night up to Sewid, which is north of there on the Island Highway, through the forests and everything of Vancouver Island. It was nighttime. Back then, when I was about 12 years old, you'd see 100 deer in that 1 hour journey. There's that much food available for wolves, bears, humans, and Sasquatch. And as we were coming down a hill that turned to the right, you knew there was a guardrail on the left-hand side at the bottom of the hill and the left turn and a pullover spot for a cement garbage can that was bear-proof. And as we're coming down there in the headlights, I thought it was a hippie sitting on the guardrail. And my dad sort of looked, and all of a sudden that left arm was placed on the metal guardrail and leaped, and you could see the hair hanging off its arms and its shoulder and its body, and I always remember the back of its calves, really long hair, and the soles of these big feet as it flew into the darkness of the forest and disappeared. And Dad sort of kind of swerved, and he's like, "Holy, we just saw a Dzoonakwa, a Sasquatch." I'm like, "Really? Is that what that was?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then that sort of slid over in the pickup bench seat, even though we're going 70 miles an hour towards Dad, and sat there. And that's when I remember, what is Sasquatch, Dzoonakwa? That's when he explained everything to me in the next 20 minutes of our drive. And I remember when we got to the dock down at the saltwater to pick up his brother off his commercial fish boat because he needed to get to Campbell River right away. I remember I was terrified in that parking lot, even though there's vehicles, street lights, boats, people, but there was the dark forest across the street and above us. And all I kept thinking about was that big hairy arm coming out because I just saw a Sasquatch. And that's what really kickstarted my interest, know more. And after the summer season of fishing, I went back to Vancouver down in the big city where my parents lived, and I went to school. And I remember going to the movie theater on the weekend Saturday matinee to see Unsolved Mysteries. And there was Leonard Nimoy narrating about Loch Ness Monster, the Aztecs and their calendar, UFOs, and of course, I got introduced to the famous Patty film. Even though it was unstabilized and everything, I remember looking at it going, that's what me and my dad saw. We saw one of those. And to me, 13 years old, that stuck with me for a lifetime, where I'd find myself going to the libraries of school and our local area and checking out the books of John Green, Grover Krentz, and others. And I started my quest of understanding more about Sasquatch. And, it's just something that stayed with me. And then every summer when I went commercial fishing, you'd end up in these different coastal communities that you can only access by boat or float plane. And I would be sitting there with local Indians and homesteaders, people that live out there, loggers, and I'd always Tommy 10,000 questions. What do you know about Bigfoot? What do you know about Sasquatch? And they would chatter like Sasquatches to me. And it was instilled upon my memory, which, at 60 years old, starting to slip a bit, but I still retain all of those interviews with people and my encounters when I became a teenager. I was, you know, always going to explore. We were always going out in boats, commercial fishing. We'd take off with speedboats to go clam digging and hand fishing for cod and halibut and different fish, and just go visit the abandoned native villages and walk around with totem poles standing and on the ground. We knew the history because that's where our families are from, but we'd go there and pick the plums in August and cherries in July. And, you'd always, talk about, I wonder if the Dzoonakwa Sasquatch is watching us. And then I remember as teenagers, some of my friends went to Mimkamlis, my abandoned native village, Village Island, the Mamiaka tribe. And there was a big totem pole standing and leaning, and had a rope that the elders, men, put on the totem pole tied down so it wouldn't fall down right away. And apparently they were in there picking plums and doing whatever. And I guess one of the young guys climbed up the totem pole, and all of a sudden rocks started raining into the area where they were standing. There's no people living in this abandoned native village, just derelict houses and falling down totem poles, and here's rocks coming in. And they, right away they attributed it to Loli, the ghosts. But when I talked to one of the cousins of mine that was actually there, he said, it wasn't ghosts. You could smell Wallace Yachbala stink. Big stink.
That was going to be one of my questions.
Sasquatch was throwing rocks at us, telling us, don't be disrespectful. Get off that totem pole. You don't do that. And so we've always had that connection. And me always, with the stories I've heard through my lifetime, especially when I was in my teens and early 20s, I'm hearing things that aren't written in those books. And, even on the internet. And that's where all of a sudden I end up spending more time in the bush. And the early 1990s, our commercial fishing industry collapsed in British Columbia. And I was let go as a captain of a commercial fish boat for the Canadian Fishing Company. And everyone was going to welfare lines and government job program lines. I just jumped in my speedy boat, went to an abandoned native village and started doing native cultural tours to the sea kayakers and people coming in their sailboats and yachts and tour companies on boats. And I would wear my native regalia and I would walk them through my abandoned native village with fallen totem poles, even a Wallacekinnis, the big one that was leaning, that had rocks thrown at the young guys that were climbing it that day. It's lying on its back with a human chief form at the bottom, a grizzly bear, and its paws that are up like this are carved two faces of the Dzoonakwa Sasquatch. And above that is human and wolf. And, I'd be doing these native cultural tours during the daytime. But at nighttime, I was either sleeping in my 26-foot trailer with a 10 by 10 foot addition that I had around the corner in native Anchorage, or I was sleeping under the picnic table with a tarp on top of my sleeping bag because I didn't like the Sasquatch in native Anchorage bothering me. So I stayed in the village. And then eventually, I was living in my grandfather's abandoned house, but I went in there at daytime and there's all these garter snakes sticking out of the cracks in the walls and the floor,
Yeah.
sunning themselves. I'm like, oh, I ain't sleeping there no more. I'll sleep under the picnic table and weed eat all around it, which I did. But you would hear nighttime, bears tearing the plum trees and cherry tree branches down. You knew that there were bears, but bears, when they eat in August, when they eat the plums in early September, you hear them crunching the pits of the plums and swallowing them. You see the big bear pies filled with plum pits. And of course, they're breaking the plum branches to get at them. But at nighttime, you wouldn't hear the breaking, but you'd hear the picking of plums and the chewing, but no crunching of pits. And you'd hear the spitting of the pits, just like we do. And I knew what that was. Dzoonakwa, Sasquatch, was harvesting plums at night. So I just mind my own, roll over, go to sleep. One night, though, when I was in my abandoned grandfather's house on the second floor with no windows, no doors, I could hear something walking through the brush, because it was deforested in the village proper, just wild fruit trees and thimbleberry branches that are about 8 feet high, blackberry, which is about 10 feet high in places, salmonberry bushes, grasses. You could hear this pushing from the tree line, probably 50 yards straight at the porch of my house I was sleeping in. And all of a sudden, it got right to the edge of the porch. I'm lying there in my bed with my rifle and shotgun, heart pounding. I know damn well what it is. It's Dzoonakwa. And right at the doorway, you could hear
Wow,
smelling me.
I can't imagine.
Turned and walked away. My heart was pounding. I was scared, but I realized it's not a boogeyman. It's just like me. It's curious. It wanted to know who I was, what I smelled like, and because smell is everything in the bush. And I sort of got a little bit at peace with Sasquatch. So when I heard them even more, I didn't bother them. They didn't bother me because that was my training as a kid. We were brought into those islands in the Broughton Archipelago, my tribal territories, with thousands of islands at the mouth of the Kinkum and Knights Inlet, where my village is. And we were brought to a beach as young boys and told after we anchored out and we went dinghy to shore at daytime with a high tide, we were all playing around doing our thing. And all of a sudden the elder, hey, get up here. We got to show you something. You see those tracks in the gravel? Well, like that? Said, yeah. You see that pile of charlie shells, cockle shells piled up on that log? Yeah. That's Dzoonakwa. Sasquatch is here telling us that at nighttime when the tide's really low, that's why we're out here to clam dig. This is their beach. They're harvesting. That's why the footprints in the broken trolley shells, because they smashed the cockles and ate the meat, piled the shells to tell us humans, don't dig here tonight. So we're going to get in that dinghy, go back to the boat, pull the anchor, and go a mile one other direction, find another beach. We know where they are, and we'll do the same thing. And we did that. And the second beach we got to, looked around, no tracks, no broken cockle shells or clam shells. Okay, we're going to dig here tonight, boys. And we got to play on the beach and barbecue a salmon, bring it to the boat, eat it. And then a couple hours into dark, that's when, tide's good now, let's go dig. And we went to shore, digging our clams and cockles, and never had to worry about Dzoonakwa because we weren't digging in their beach, crossing their path. And that's the respect we were taught right from young boys, that you always respect Dzoonakwa Sasquatch. You never think of disrespecting them, let alone harming them, killing them, trapping them. And that's, why I do what I do. Hundreds of podcasts, video casts, conference circuit, wrote a book, writing another, radio shows, magazine editorials, star in the movie Bigfoot Girl and American Sasquatch and Amazon Prime. I'm in Expedition Bigfoot season 6, numerous episodes, because what I'm doing is I'm being the Sasquatch shaman. I'm bringing the knowledge, understanding from the native tribes to the non-Indians to educate.
That's actually my question for you, sir, was how do elders traditionally determine when knowledge should be shared? Because I know there's some knowledge you probably are keeping to yourselves because that's an elder's job, to keep that knowledge, to hold it. But when is it typically determined when to share that knowledge?
Every day.
Every day?
Noosa, to tell the story.
Okay.
Tommy, you come here. You remember this boy. That's what I was brought up with. And at the end of them educating me, you remember this boy. So I was fortunate because I had would find out later in life I have a photographic memory that things that I find enjoyable. History, native culture, heritage, legends and stories, Sasquatch, and commercial fishing. So it's nice that I have that, but at the same turn, I have an obligation as being 60 years old. I'm an elder. I must Noosa. I must tell my story.
Okay.
And it's not only to my native people, it's to others. And Sasquatch, I find, really needs the story being told. You just look at the industry, may rest in peace, Dr. Jeff Meldrum.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember 2015 when I went to Sasquatch Summit at Ocean Shores, Quinault Indian tribal territories here on the Olympic Peninsula. And I stood in line for like 45 minutes. I got up there and got my picture with Jeff Meldrum signing my book for $22. And I was starstruck. I got to meet the great Jeff Meldrum. Went home, lying in bed with my wife, Peggy. I'm reading his book. And about a third of the way through, I just threw it at the bedroom wall. You think with the capital D, small r period before your name and alphabet soup after it on your degree and your business card, you would have the wherewithal to go sit with the Kwakwaka'wakw tribe and ask them, what do you call your Sasquatch? Dzoonakwa. And what is Bokwus we hear written about from your tribe? Well, Bokwus are the little hair-covered 4-foot tall bipedal creatures, not a Sasquatch. Bokwus is chief of the ghost world. And yes, they exist. And my wife goes, what did he write? I said, he put in there to Kwakwaka'wakw Indians in northern Vancouver Island call their Sasquatch Bokwus. That's why I threw the book. And you know what? I haven't picked up that book to read since because it left this bad taste in my mouth that, come on, people, Now we got, there's a conference in Washington State last weekend, Sasquatch Fest. And there's the picture someone took of the audience, and there's these two Indian women, which we call aunties in North America. Oh, lemon face, scowling. And I knew darn well what it was. Some non-Indian white person was on that stage talking about the Indian beliefs, understanding perspectives, and probably pronouncing the names wrong or mispronouncing what the creatures were. And these two Indian elder ladies called aunties were just and so I talked to someone last night who actually took the picture. I go, who was on stage? And they said Kathy Strain. And she's the one who wrote this book, which is all Indian culture, beliefs, perspectives, understanding. Well, that's 2 years in a row where she's got the aunties really upset. Last year, it was aunties crying in a Sasquatch conference because Kathy was showing on her PowerPoint pictures of dead relatives from their family who she had not asked permission to use commercially. And so this is what I'm trying to change and advocate that, okay, the days of you, and I'm going to say it bluntly, and I mean no offense, but you white people got to understand one thing. Leave our culture, heritage, our beliefs, understandings, perspectives, pictures of our native art to us Indians. It's not your place to go on stage because you got $1,000 to be at a conference to talk about it, or you're getting ego and glory by coming onto a video cast, audio cast, and recognition for your product, book, or whatever. Leave the Indian stuff alone. Dzoonakwa, Sabe, Holocaust, Steamtum, Gogi, that all belongs to us. We're the ones that will tell you about it. That way we get the pronunciation right, and we get the creature's name right, and we honor our Sasquatch and our ancestors that have passed by sharing what we need to share.
It's respect.
Indian stuff to us.
It's respect.
That's what it is. Yeah, I was going to say thank you for your patience. Thank you for your patience.
Don't get me wrong. I feel like grabbing some of them like that. Go on commercial fishermen Indian on their butts.
From my tribe is, has shame on its shoulders.
Yeah. No, it's like late Dr. Don Bindernagel and I, he was, 1991 when I had my big Sasquatch encounter in native Anchorage in my trailer and we saw two Sasquatches walking on the beach. put the spotlight from my commercial fish boat on him and illuminated a big male and a female. And the male dropped on his knee and put his arm up and was looking at my spotlight like that, breathing. And you see one eye, two eye, 1.5 eyes reflection. The female at the high tide on the open beach dropped on her knees with her head down in a fetal position with her buttocks pointing at my boat. And we could see her eye under her right armpit reflecting. And for 25 minutes, we had them lit up. We were throwing apples. I was disrespectful and ignorant back then in my 20s, but we're throwing apples and potatoes and eggs towards them, splashing in the water to try to get them moving so we can see them better, but they wouldn't. As soon as I turned the spotlight off, into the bushes, the male pushed a big dead hemlock tree about 5 inches in diameter down. I know because I seen it the next morning. Pushed it down where you heard that big crash and rotten tree come down, which is a sign of them saying, bugger off, I'm upset with you. And they disappeared in the bush. Hour and a half later, the male came out again, skirted the other side of the bay and got within 60 yards of the boat. And me and my crewman, who were the only ones awake at that period, saw it. So, you know, I had an amazing encounter there. And when I got out of the bush, or commercial fishing, which is bush, because you're out there, bush water world, I went to Kwakwaka'wakw Beach on Vancouver Island where my father lived. And I say, hey, Dad, this is what happened. Told him the Sasquatch encounter. And he's, of course, oh, gee, that's good. He goes, gets up and he gets a piece of paper. He goes, it's funny because last week this doorbell rang and I answered it. And there's this white-haired, white-bearded white guy, and he's an elder. And he's all, hi, I'm Dr. John Bindernagel. I understand you're Tom Sewid. You had a Sasquatch encounter on Vancouver Island. And my dad's like, oh, I seen this guy on news. Oh, you want to come in? I'll tell you about it. So we brought him in, but my dad said, well, actually, it wasn't me. It was someone I worked with. I had an encounter. This is what took place. But he met Dr. John Bindernagel, and John says, well, if you have any reports, here's my phone number. And he goes, yeah, I'll pass it on to my son. He's always out in bush. So when I showed up, my dad gave me the number. I phoned John Bindernagel right away, and he's all excited. Oh, you got a report, a fresh one? 2 Sasquatch? And that, yeah, I'm going back to Camp River tomorrow. How about I stop by your house in Courtney? And so I did, and I got to meet him. And 3 hours later, I left, and that's when we started the friendship that lasted until he passed in 2017. And I used to phone John up, going, "Hey, we're done commercial fishing for a couple of weeks. Get up to northern Vancouver Island. We'll go out in my boat." And he'd show up in his old jalopy red truck and load up all of his gear, and me and him would go Sasquatch investigating for a couple, 4 days or longer. So, you know, that's what really, then I got to be able to sit there with John and have those very in-depth scientific related discussions about Sasquatch, who at the beginning of our relationship, we both believed Sasquatch in North America was from the Bering Land Sea, was Gigantopithecus blackie, the big giant gorilla. And then after a while, John and I, as you know, more evidence was coming out and we were discussing things. I remember one day going, John, I don't think Sasquatch is Gigantopithecus blackie. I've actually been close with one. This is what happened. It was when I got a really close encounter with one. It said they're big hairy Indians. They're humans. And it would take years for me to get an understanding of Sasquatch to now stand here when I'm at the store I manage here on the Olympic Peninsula, SasquatchLegend.com, the largest Sasquatch museum and store in North America. And we got Biggie, the 8.5-foot mannequin of a Sasquatch. And when people ask me, what is a Sasquatch? I go, to us Indians of North America, to the indigenous people of Central America and South America, where they have stories, names, understanding, beliefs, and perspectives of their Sasquatch. Take, for example, Chile, Patagonia. Patagonia, the clothing, means where the big hairy ones live. That's what Patagonia means. And that's from their indigenous people. So Sasquatch in the Americas are the indigenous people, Indians, Adam and Eve. We come from them. We go a week without bathing. Stinky armpits. Why do we have stinky armpits? The remnants of scent glands. So back in the day of evolution, we were able to excrete a scent when we felt threatened or intimidated. Sasquatch still has that ability. We look, and kids in school look at books, and I guess nowadays tablets and video, but pictures of cavemen going all the way up the lineages from Lucy, monkeys that were quadruped, then biped, and then all of a sudden they evolved to Cro-Magnon, Homo erectus, Neanderthal, but it's the Neanderthal and Homo sapien that are hairless. Neanderthal, though, has big brow ridges, a big jaw from the archaeological evidence we have. So we look at Sasquatch in pictures and carvings and paintings and AI, and it's depicted with this big biker hillbilly beard. Sasquatches are like me, a thoroughbred Indian who cannot grow a beard or a heavy biker beard. And we're very patchy. And when you look at the pictures of Sasquatch from sketch artists that reenact what a person encountered up close of a Sasquatch, you never see a biker beard. It's always a little bit of stubble, like when you go to an Indian reserve or a tribal casino and see thoroughbred Indians like me with pathetic looking face hair. That's an Indian. No, that's Bokwus. That's the wild one of the woods, the little one. So, but basically it gives you an idea though what a Sasquatch face would look like. No big beard. But that one's
well defined too.
Yeah. So with the Adam and Eve hypotheses of Sasquatch, I believe that tens of thousands, 100,000 plus years ago, a Sasquatch grabbed two rocks and clicked them together, and there was spark and started a fire. And a bigger Sasquatch came over and, what are you doing? We have laws, very strict laws. We don't use fire. Because I've learned with enough Indian shamans that I've studied with and will study with even further in my life's path, that Sasquatch have laws, very strict laws. That's why they don't have fire. They don't have tools. They don't have weapons. They don't have semi-permanent structure. They don't have clothing. Sasquatch have very strict laws. But back in the day when that Sasquatch clicked and started using fire, like all humans, they rebelled. Revolution. We're standing our own ground. We like our meat and fish and veg cooked now. You do what you want to do, harmony and balance with nature, but we are too, but we're going to have fire. Fire would lead to tools, would lead to weapons, because now they're defending their hunting, fishing grounds with other Sasquatches. And now the evolutionary trait takes place, and the Sasquatch bipedals lose their hair because of fire and semi-permanent structure and clothing. And they evolved to become the indigenous people of the Americas, Indians. And that's why we have the remnants of scent glands in our armpits. And we lost our ability to have the nocturnal vision, the big height, the big girth, because we're living a life of leisure now. We weren't always chasing down animals to kill and fish. We've got smaller, less muscular structure, clothing, warmth. It expanded our culture, our heritage. Really expanded our ability to create weapons and conduct warfare. And the Sasquatches that stayed the original creation by Kwakwaka'wakw, the creator, to be in harmony and balance with nature, with no fire, no clothing, no house, no weapon, no tool, has avoided us like the plague, because we know we are the contaminated bipedal creature of the North America and Central America and South America. We are the inferior bipedal creature of the planet. And that's where I've taken this path of Sasquatch shamanism. We have so much to learn from Sasquatch. And that I tell people, that time where I got so sick of humanity, the police gave me an ultimatum: get out of Qualicum Beach, otherwise you're going to the Crowbar Hotel, jail. My girlfriend, I caught bumping uglies with my roommate, my best friend, in our driveway in his vehicle. Revenue Canada, IRS, taxation sent me a letter for $123,000 in back taxes with a 24% compounding interest. I went to the professionals. How can I deal with this? Well, you're making over $100,000 a year as a commercial fisherman, but you'll never be able to pay that down. Your corrupt bookkeeper screwed you. You're pooched. You better declare bankruptcy. God forbid, I can't do that. So after catching my girlfriend bumping uglies with my best friend, I packed all my stuff in storage. I sold and gave away what I could. I threw the rest in the dump. I jumped in my pickup truck with my 10-foot tinny in the back, an outboard motor, my guns, my fishing gear, my bush gear. And I went into the bush, and I basically didn't return for 9.5 years. Yes, I would come out to cash checks and party and things like that. But I basically lived a life in existence being in bush. And there was one time I had another traumatic event in my life happen. I walked into the bush and I never turned around for almost 200 plus days. And I actually went feral. And when I was pulled out of the bush, the helicopter pilot said, "You were wild. Your eyes were like an animal. You couldn't speak proper English." And he enticed me to come back, but I couldn't sleep in the bed for almost 2 weeks or longer. And the first night in the hotel room, because of the fire engines and the smell of the city and noise of people in the bar, I ran out of the hotel across the street into the bush and disappeared till I couldn't hear or smell human again. And that's where I slept that first night. So I've been a Sasquatch. I've lived the life of a Sasquatch. And I know what it's like to look at the disrespect of one another that I see within the hairless bipedals, especially within the Sasquatch industry, and that's why I'm here to take the teachings and knowledge of the Sasquatch and the native tribes and bring it forth so that we all have a better understanding and hopefully become better humans.
Yeah, absolutely. Demystifying, completely demystifying fact from fiction. And I wanted to ask you, in the Dzoonakwa law, is there magical abilities associated with?
Of course there is, because we have a lot of supernatural beings within the Kwakwaka'wakw crests. We call them crests. We don't call them effigies. We don't call them gods. We don't call them lore and all that mythology. They're crests. And some crests have supernatural characteristics and abilities. And when you look, refer to it as a supernatural time, the time when all the supernatural stuff was taking place. And there's stories about Dzoonakwa lifting up a lake, and Chief Sewid, entered underneath the lake and went into the underwater kingdom and actually saw Dzoonakwa, the underwater Dzoonakwa, and other creatures. And our crests, though, are owned by families. The legend story are owned by families. So there's stories about Dzoonakwa with mythological, supernatural characteristics even now. It doesn't belong to my family, so I don't have permission to share it. I do recommend going to our cultural center website and visit the cultural center in Alert Bay, but umista, www.umista.ca, umista.ca. It's a wealth of Kwakwaka'wakw crests, mythology, spirituality, and so forth. But yeah, Dzoonakwa has a lot of supernatural power. One of the legends I heard that's sort of a generic for all families is your ancestor would go find where the Dzoonakwa lives, and if invited to be with the Dzoonakwa, it would be given treasure, klakwas, the big copper shields that are like a bank account credit card to our tribe. The chiefs had title to them. You can break them in half and give them to someone for pay a debt, or they take a debt on with you. It's all in the umista.ca website on Klakwas copper. But anyway, that's treasure. And that's how the families, some of them acquired some of those shields, was by going to sit with Dzoonakwa, the Sasquatch, and get the treasure given to them, or Sisiuth, the double-headed sea serpent, or Kwakwaka'wakw, the thunderbird, or Kumakwa, the underwater sea god, who had baskets of Klakwa treasure in his big house under the sea with 4 live sea lions holding his roof in place, which was shining copper. So yeah, I can be on 20 different episodes with you guys talking about all kinds of stuff.
Oh, well,
wow. I'd love to have you on. We can do like a whole mini series.
Yeah, please.
Like my grandmother one time, she told me that when she was an Abidu, a young girl, her and the other friends went to the backside of Alert Bay to Grassy Point, Grassy Point's still there. It's a campsite now, but back in my day, it was a place to go bump uglies as a teenager, young man, and smoke pot and party on the beach having bonfires. So hopefully the cops didn't come down. But anyway, my grandmother went down there back out. She was born in, I guess, maybe 1918, so probably be the 20s. And all of a sudden, their hair felt like staticky, and they could hear this shh, and they looked up, and there was this thing opening up, swirling like a rainbow. And she said it was as big as the front of a big house, which is probably 20 feet, 30 feet wide. And her and all the girls turned and ran, screaming and crying back to the village. And when she told her mother, who I knew and grew up with, Agnes Alford, my great grandmother, when she told her, don't you go down the Grassy Point. The supernatural things down there. That was Kwakwaka'wakw. The Thunderbird was opening up and coming out of his realm. So when I asked my grandmother that, I said, but you said it was swirling like a rainbow and static, and it was circular. It's a portal. And then I asked my grandmother, I said, well, Kwakwaka'wakw, the Thunderbird, it's black, form line, white, red, orange beak, maybe some green in it. She goes, no, Tommy. People got it wrong. That's just our, I guess, how you say we talk about it, paint it. I said, interpretation. Yeah, okay. And then she goes, Kwakwaka'wakw was like that vortex, that circle. It's rainbow colored. So what I'm doing is I'm an native artist. All the art you see behind me and at SasquatchLegend.com, all the T-shirts of Sasquatch and other things we sell, including my website, SasquatchIsland.com, where you can see my native art on the gallery page. I'm an artist, but I'm doing a picture of a totem pole leaning like that one in Village Island, and all the crest forms carved on it. And there's going to be me in native button blanket and regalia, cedar bark headpiece with my arm out, pulling a young Indigenous woman with high heels, a skirt, office briefcase or laptop. And underneath us are going to be forms of all the animal kingdom or all of the humans of North America. Be a white person. There'll be Inuit from the north, Plains Indian, East Coast Indian, Hispanic, because the Hispanics are the biggest Indigenous community in North America, and of course West Coast Native Indians. But they're going to be in their traditional garb, but they're going to be reaching out, and instead of hands and arms, they're going to be crab arms and claws, and they're going to be reaching out at me and that young businesswoman. And above it is going to be a painting of, like, what's his name there? That guy who used to be the lead singer for Queen.
Freddie Mercury.
Talking about. Yeah, it's going to be him in his white pants and muscle shirt, but it's going to be a Thunderbird. But it's all going to be, instead of black, red, and white traditional colors, it's all going to be pastel, bright pinks and blues and purples and reds and greens, limes. And the title of the picture will be Breaking Tradition. So the tradition of the Indigenous people in the Americas right now is to be crabs. Never pat your fellow Indian on the back and go, way to go, girl. Way to go, boy. Or, hey, that's really good. I like what you're doing. I'll help you. I'll help you get better at what you're doing. No, the Indian way is to tear them down. What do you think you're doing, Tommy? You're always on those podcasts, bullshitting away about our culture and heritage. Well, number one, I'm not BSing. And number two, you're just jealous and being a crab because I'm a Sasquatch celebrity. I'm on TV, I'm in movies, I'm in hundreds of podcasts. Yep. People come by my book and get my picture and my autograph. That's why you're crab syndrome, because you're jealous of Tommy. Yeah, you're right. You beep, beep, beep. And that's the culture and society of the Indigenous people of the Americas right now. And I want to do in my art and my talking to break that syndrome. And one of the parts of the painting is my right foot crushing down a crab claw, smashing it, breaking it, because I need to help end that, because it's a travesty amongst our Indigenous people.
Yeah, I was just gonna show this up on the phone, or up on the screen, the Patterson Gimble film. This is from October 20th, 1967. Patterson and Gimble, they were out there, and they out in the just out there, and they took this video, and it was amazing. You could see the actual creature. It's a Sasquatch. It's got definition. It's got muscle mass. It's not a suit. There's no way that's a suit at that time and age, because
I've got a question for Thomas Dzoonakwa. Diet, is it just berries and mussels and cockles and winkles and things from the beach? Is there any stories of eating other animals, or do you find these things littered around, or is it more like a diet of a bear, that kind of thing? Well, I'm interested in the kind of what they eat.
So first thing I teach people in Sasquatch shamanism is, what would you eat if you're out there in the bush of the Pacific Northwest? And then the other thing I teach them is the number one lesson: put yourself in the souls of a Sasquatch. They are you and you are them. So how they think, how they understand, how they rhyme and reason, how they strategize is no different than you. Some are better than others. Me, I'm a master strategist politically because I've been in Native Indian politics for a lifetime. But with the Sasquatch, what do they eat? Here in the Pacific Northwest, everything's based upon seasonal, abundant foods. So right now, I went outside last couple of nights having a cigarette, and I look up at the big full moon. I'm like, ooh, clam tides. And leading up to the full moon and just is the big tides. And people were coming in the store last week. Oh, what are you doing up here? Coming from Seattle. Oh, we're going razor clamming digging. Means there's big tides, big low tides. Suppose there's a lot of shellfish. Buffet tables set when it's low tide in the Pacific Northwest. And Pacific Northwest is Northern California to the Aleutian Islands, British Columbia included. So this time of the year, it's shellfish. But when you're walking down the whole river here and you want to go down to the beach, but you're the central upper clan and your territories are defined by the 3 teepee structures on the west side of the whole river on an oxbow turn, you get there and go, damn, can't go clam digging. Not my territory, the lower 2 miles of the river. So they have clan territories. So do they have trade? We don't know. We can only speculate and hypothesize right now. But yeah, they do have rendezvous and converge with each tribe. But anyway, they're going after the ones that can't get to the shellfish beaches. They're going after the elk that are coming off the mountains into the lower valleys and fields because there's snow on the hills now. Well, there should be. We're actually in a drought for snow this year. But anyway, the elk are down low and the deer. And then you have the human produced foods. So Forks, little community of about 2,000, 3,000 people, we're surrounded in bush. Well, we got reports over here on the east side of the big male and female. We have stories on the west side of the female with a young baby and a big male in that area. And I don't know about the south or the north sides, but I haven't got reports yet. But anyway, what they're doing is those Sasquatches come into our backyards at night. They're sitting there in the bush looking. As soon as all the house lights go out and the TV screen shut off, the bedroom light and the bathroom light go off, wait half an hour, go to the house and listen. You can hear the hairless bipedals sleeping, snoring, farting, REM sleep. Now it's time to go open their compost and not be seen or heard. Dig through the compost. Going to a dozen houses at night as a Sasquatch and going into the compost at the edge of the wood is like us going to an Indian casino buffet. It's on. Smorgasbord, diverse foods. Can you imagine being a Sasquatch opening up a compost and we threw out half a cantaloupe because it was a little soggy? We threw out half a dozen tomatoes because they were mushy. Threw out this because that little bit of mold. Well, to a Sasquatch, that's prime time, easy pickings, high concentrated proteins, carbohydrates, sugars, meats, fish, veg. They're just eating. And do that to 10 or a dozen composts, you got a full belly and might be bringing some stuff up to the elderly and sick that are in the bush sleeping and resting or trying to harvest, but they're sick or old or whatever. So coming to the backyards, compost number one, the greenhouses, the gardens. Right now behind the store, I can go dig in my flower pots, and I bet you I got 10 pounds of potatoes in that one flower pot. I just haven't dug it up yet. The next two are loaded with green onions and other things. Back behind their store are apple trees. We still got apples on the ground and up in the branches because no bears in downtown Forks and no Sasquatches. But go to the urban edge. There ain't no bear apples in the trees because the bears and Sasquatches have gotten them. But also the compost, the greenhouses, the outbuildings with freezers with meat and fish and other stuff, poultry, livestock, pet food in the outbuildings. We're doing some investigating right now where I told two different people to put out foods as gifts. Well, one over in the Seattle area, this is like not 4 nights ago, put out a jar of peanut butter. Day before yesterday, sent me pictures. The peanut butter was opened and 1/3 of it taken out.
Okay.
The individuals we're working with here in Forks on 300 plus acres, where we have the all-inclusive exclusive contract to Sasquatch Island to be the only investigating team allowed there for the foreseeable future. They got orchards, they got animals, elk, river with fish. They got on like Donkey Kong with Sasquatch, and we got all kinds of equipment out there. But when we go there in August, September, July, when the cherries are out, what kind of evidence are we going to gather of Sasquatch when we're hiding in the outbuildings on the second floor with our $50,000-$60,000 worth of FLIR cameras that we have and scopes? We're going to get some pretty good evidence. And, it's just so great being able to understand Sasquatch, that it's all about that seasonal protein. Summertime, it's going to be salmon.
Peanut butter, yeah.
Snowmelt, May, June, July, they're up in the Alpines. That's where the fawn drop takes place because the female ungulates, elk and deer and others, need that lush greenery sprouting up in the Alpines for milk production, and also be able to keep their baby safe from predators because they can see and hear and smell a long ways. So it's all about that seasonal protein. So whatever region you're in, Sasquatch shamanism dictates that you have to learn one thing first and foremost as a Sasquatch investigator in Sasquatch Island, aka North America. You learn respect. So you reach out to your local Indian tribe where you want to investigate, and you sit down with them and you ask protocols and permission and their boundaries and guidelines for investigating within their traditional territories or within or not within their Indian reservation. Then you form that bridge. You might form friendships, and now you'll get a better understanding of the Sasquatch where you want to investigate, and hopefully get a close encounter of the hairy kind. The next thing you're going to learn is the native dialect. Hello, I come in peace. I mean no harm. I offer you food. Halakilasla. Go in peace in my tribal territories. So that when you do have that close encounter of the hairy kind, you can talk to the Sasquatch in that region. And that region, Sasquatch knows the regional tribal Indian dialect because our shamans have been interacting with Sasquatches for tens of thousands of years. The Omaha Indian tribe and others refer to Sasquatch as the keeper of the medicine. Omaha, Sitonga, Sasquatch, the keeper of the medicine. The shamans will go live with the Sasquatches, have that Diane Fossey, Jane Goodall interaction, which can take months, if not over a year or more. And once that happens, communicate and learn the poultices, plant medicines, remedies, and so forth. And then go back to your tribal community and be the shaman. That's where we get the understanding. And a lot of people, because I see from your body language that you guys are like, holy smokes, he's teaching us stuff we didn't even think of or comprehend or even think of asking about. Now you guys got to go invite other Indians on board and talk about their tribal connection to their regional Sasquatch, because we have an understanding. I belong to the Kwakwaka'wakw tribe from northern Vancouver Island. I belong to the Hamatsa Society, the secret society of the Hamatsa. Google it. Hamatsa means human flesh eater, cannibal. We don't practice it, haven't for generations, but it once was practiced by our people. We were the ultimate intimidators for our chieftains. We were the secret agents, service agents. We were the guardians, like the King's Guard in England. That's what we Hamatsas were to the chieftains and noble ones and tribe.
Oh,
but
wow.
we do have a connection with Dzoonakwa, Sasquatch. What it is, Cannot go past that line. I
Uh-huh.
know by my secret society how far we can go. But it's all written in books and on the internet. And as far as I can go, the further part, nope, won't go there ever. Not in my lifetime. But
I'm
there is what I'm using it as reference to is the Indian tribes. Most of us have a connection, understanding to Sasquatch. And some tribes won't even talk about their Sasquatch, or especially little people, what we call Bokwus, stick people, and another whole different episode. But the native tribes are definitely the ones you want to go to. But in your path of understanding and research, studying the native people's anthropological and cultural being, existence, will help you understand the Sasquatch from their tribal area. So understanding the Kwakwaka'wakw would start the year off in January is the clam season. Then late February, March is the herring season. Late March into April is the ooligan season. May is the June salmonberry season. And then you got your July, August, which is your fruit season and your salmon seasons going into the fall. October starts, it's still salmon season, but the clams are good to eat because there's no green now in their bellies, meaning the phytoplankton and protozoans, the one-celled creatures that clams suck in and eat. That's the green inside their bellies. And that's why you only should harvest during months without R. September, borderline, too much sun. October, November, December, January, February, March. April, the best months for shellfish, no greenery inside them, no phytoplankton, which is also could be Goniolix, the one-celled creature with a flagellum, a hair to flick to move, otherwise known as red tide. It has paralytic shellfish poisoning that it causes in shellfish, which is in the summertime, red tide. So Sasquatches know that. They very seldom will be on a beach. You won't hear of them digging shellfish in summertime on the beach, but they will be down there on big summertime low tides looking for octopus that are under the rocks at low tide, which we call tokwa, looking for rock scallops and other things that have washed in with the tides. So it's not about just going into the forest and expecting to see Sasquatch, because the only ones who came up spades with going into the forest were Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin with Patty. And by the way, behind that shoulder, that hallway leads down to the famous Patty room 1967. Got Patty's imprint on the wall with Patty room 1967. When you go in, it's all Patty and Bob Gimlin autographed merchandise, the gold 50th anniversary gold cast, other things I've collected through the years, 2 queen-size beds. So when people come out here and book with me and go on a Sasquatch expedition, I charge $375 US, 24-hour period per person, all exclusive, meaning I cook for you in the kitchen. The chanterelle mushrooms I've picked, oyster mushrooms, chicken of the woods, and others, malibs or whatever they called, and then the seafood, elk and deer, beef, chicken, if that's what you want. God forbid if you're a vegan, yeah, I'll go get tofu and I can fry that up for you and other vegetable matter. But the best thing is I make you eat like a Sasquatch when you're with me. All the bush taka, all the bush foods.
I know
And of course,
the
you get to
only
stay with me in this house. It's all original native art that I've created of Sasquatch
I've,
and
I've,
other art I've collected through the years. You get to sit and watch me paint, and I got a big art table over there. I'm painting a salmon panel right now, but I might be working on a Sasquatch piece.
I know the only story that I actually have of which is incidentally, this is my most prized possession, is this that I got when I was it was on. Now there's a story behind this. So I got this when I was out in the woods. Now me and my friend were out in the woods. We were in let me think, Lenni Lenape Indians in Philadelphia. We were out in the woods back that way, and he had told me, he's like, Jason, there's all this rattling and everything going on outside. I don't know what was going on. It's like a hurricane, like a tree came down. I was like, and we were in the tent, and I heard this grunting noises and stuff outside, and he was like, what did you you know, we need to do, we'll do something tonight, you know, we'll give out food. And there was this I'll have to find it, I can't find the picture, but there was this rock out there, okay, and it had this weird symbol on it. I don't know, it was like one symbol, and it was on this rock, and he said you need to, you know, give the Sasquatch something, some food or something, you know, and an offering, and maybe sometimes you'll get something back. And this was laid on the rock the next day, which was it's a quartz rock that looks like an arrowhead.
Interesting.
That's the only story I had. I had something, a gifting, I guess, of like food for this arrowhead shaped quartz rock.
Yeah, it's the tool significance, I don't think, is why. I think it's more that the Sasquatch is gifting you something which is out of the ordinary. That
Yeah,
coincides with the color of your skin, so it gave you a white rock.
it's my most prized possession.
Yeah, no, they do that. Do we take breaks on this podcast?
We
Can do.
can. You want to
Can
take
do.
a 5-minute?
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a smoke and grab a coffee, and I'm gonna grab some things to show because
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
so while Tom's doing that, we'll go through some stuff here too, because I mean, I think it's awesome. Like, you know,
You know,
yeah, Popstar loves this story. Like,
the Dzoonakwa shaman is the, you know, I think this is the real deal. This is truth. This is disclosure. This is demystification of, you know, the urban mythology that's built up around. I think, you know, what we like to do in this show is go to source as much as we can. And Jay, you there? Everyone's left me alone.
I'm still here. I'm just locking it up. I have my safe in my house, so I lock up my. That's like my most prized possession, you know.
You know, like so far today, I've learned a great deal of knowledge and understanding, and to listen, you know, Thomas's artwork he's making and creating in a traditional sense. And
yep, I've got actually some of it here that we can put on the screen. Let me get some of these off of here, and I'll put some on the screen for everybody to look at here. So the artwork here is one. Oh, hold on. There we go. There we go. There's one.
yeah, tree-peaking Sasquatch.
There's another one here.
Yeah,
Like all really cool stuff. There's some of the footprints he got.
that's, yeah. I mean, I before this conversation, I was very much on the fence. Is this people creating something? Is this like
It's real.
and then to listen to First Nations elder explain how his history growing up and understanding of the Dzoonakwa, which I can't pronounce properly.
Well, here. Actually, let's let him explain it in his own words. We got a 2-minute video.
Okay.
Some stories of the Dzoonakwa having kids on sticks.
We heard a real awful noise and we got told to stay in.
So you can see it's walking.
Like a ball right now.
Yeah.
No, it's walking.
Out there in the bush, you would hear the whoops and the screams and the roars at night.
You have to go somewhere and experience something. If you don't have that camera ready, that's when something's going to happen.
Hey, we got tracks here.
Even Rosie is a kid, like we all able to see it. The prints, they were like huge.
Respected space because it'll get you.
Respected space because it'll get you. Like,
Yeah, I want to ask Thomas about the you know, to the as a young man, as a young boy, he was, you know, his parents, grandparents saying, Dzoonakwa is going to take you away.
Oh, I know, right?
And with the basket on the back coming after. Has this happened traditionally? That's
a good question. Has somebody been taken?
Well, I mean, it serves, I guess, in one level, it serves a purpose to kind of keep the kids in check, right?
Yeah.
But on another level, where it's real, very much a real thing, then has there been instance historically of kids being taken away by and then to hear the supernatural abilities and the Thunderbird story of the portals opening with many colors. Because it like Popstar says, does Dzoonakwa Sasquatch eat children or kidnap them? There seems to be like it reminds me of Krampus in Europe.
Yeah.
In a sense, maybe. And I wanted to ask Thomas that when he's coming back now. Okay. Hey, sir.
Yeah, you take as long as you need. Come back.
Yeah.
We're just looking at some of your photos here. I was putting up some of your artwork that you had.
So this one here, if you look at the pupils, the reflection of the watcher, Sasquatch watching, is my wife with a ponytail, a backpack, a walking stick. And it's the Sasquatch watching my wife out hiking. So a lot of Indian tribes, their translation will be the one that watches or the watcher, especially on Vancouver Island. And Sasquatch, when you get a skeptic, no such thing as Sasquatch. I'm a timber cruiser. I'm a prospector. I'm a mushroom picker. I'm an avid hiker. I'm a logger. We never see Sasquatches. When I hunt, I never see them. Well, of course not. You got a gun, you're wearing camo. You're a threat. They'd stay away from you. But if you ever notice sometimes when you're in the bush doing your thing, you hear something, you turn around and look, and there's a bouncing branch. No bird, no cougar cub, no bear cub, no squirrel.
Yeah.
Well, that's a Sasquatch, pulls the branch down, watches you, and notices you're a bush dancer. You're moving like the breeze through the forest. You're comfortable. You're not looking at where every footfall is going to be. You look, you take 12 or 14 steps, you look again. You're comfortable. You're moving quietly. Sasquatch sees that, and right away they pull a branch down even further. They let it go. As it bounces, it turns and walks away. It's simply telling you, I seen you. I'm letting you go about your business. I expect the same. Son of a gun. Every time me and my brothers go to the cabin elk hunting in Eastern Washington, every year that happens when I'm out looking for elk. So there you go. That's how close you are to a Sasquatch, the watcher.
We have a question in the side chat, Thomas, from one of our very own Planet Popstar, and it's concerning the as a young man, as a young boy, you were told to behave yourself, or the Dzoonakwa was going to take you away. Is there any like I can see how that, as mum and dad, behave yourselves and this, but is there history to this? To like
absolutely.
Maybe female Sasquatch taking away babies or children?
Absolutely. You just have to reach out to my good friend David Paulides' Missing 411 series of books and podcasts and everything else, his website. And he doesn't even said it at the release of American Sasquatch that I was in 6 scenes in Tacoma 2.5 months ago. Someone asked, he said, people always ask me, is there a connection between the missing people and Sasquatch? He goes, I've never stated that. Only once did we refer to Bigfoot, where the woman got taken, disappeared, became missing, but the boyfriend who was with her said a Bigfoot took her. And that there's other missing 411 and other cases out there of missing children, finding their shoes, finding their hoodie, but no children around. What happens to them? Well, on Vancouver Island, I'm not saying it is, but we had a 16-year-old boy go missing a number of years ago, like within 8 years ago, and playing video games downstairs in the basement of the only trailer in the trailer park at the edge of the wood in north central Campbell River with forest all around. Mom says, "Oh, the dog won't go out to pee. Bear must be there." "Oh, okay, Mom, I'll go scare it away." So he goes out the back door. She closes it, never to be seen again. And posters, billboard, even up in Campbell River, wanting people to get closure. What happened to my son, our family member? Well, not saying he was taken by a Sasquatch, but there is some rumors about it. But we had audio recorders some 35 miles away from there about 6 months later in late fall, out by my Sasquatch investigation camp of 5 cabins on eastern Vancouver Island, which I used to use for sea kayak with whales back in the day. But anyway, we got a lot of Sasquatch activity there. So we got audio devices, trail cameras. We go investigate there. Well, the woman who does the maps for me on SasquatchIsland.com at the bottom of the homepage, the Olympic Peninsula map, Vancouver Island, my map, and North America, Carrie, her and her husband had an audio recorder. She goes, "Tom, listen to this. What do you make out?" And you just hear crunch, crunch, night sounds, something moving. And then you hear a young man's voice, "Let me go. Let me go." Timestamp 2:00 in the morning. What the heck was that all about? There isn't a house within 15 miles of my camp. And yet, in the fall, 2:00 in the morning, a young man, "Let me go.
That's
Let me
scary.
go." So people ask me, well, if it was a young man kidnapped by Sasquatches, why? Well, adolescent, bumping uglies, spread the seed. They're humans, this big hairy ones. So if they have a problem of inbreeding and don't want inbreeding, bring in a young buck, knock up a few females, genetic strengthening of the species, as Kwakwaka'wakw, the creator God, intends for us to do. That's why we don't hillbilly out and inbreed. So what's the other speculation I have? A walking refrigerator. Capture a human, keep it. When times do get lean, like late fall, early winter, salmon might show up, tides aren't low enough to harvest, elk disappeared. Well, your walking refrigerator, Sasquatch like eating beans, human beans, some of them. And that's where we get the rogue Sasquatch. So what is a rogue Sasquatch? Well, the picture you showed there was a side profile Patty frame 352, done in Kwakwaka'wakw style. Well, the other one I did when I was on Expedition Bigfoot season 6, I did one chasing you with its hand out, native design Sasquatch, and it represents a rogue. A rogue is a Sasquatch that has gone rogue. They've gone hunter-killer. So when we look at Sasquatch and reflect upon correlating and comparing to us as a species, human, 2007, I was sued for $640,000. I lost my empire. I watched my house almost paid for off Indian Reserve, my $280,000 tour boat, my $67,000 sea kayak fleet, $84,000 liquid in my bank accounts, garnished overnight. Sheriff seized everything. I had to declare bankruptcy. And my mother and my children, my common law wife at the time, Kathleen, was a social worker. I had to move my family into my parents' basement. We lost everything, from being worth rocking our credit cards up $30,000-$60,000 a month and paying them down without interest. That's how wealthy and well off we were. All of a sudden, I went over to being a flat broke Indian overnight, and that's why in this picture, I got more chins in a Chinese phone book, and I weighed 255 pounds. I've lost 125 pounds. Back then, I was so stressed. That was just the day after this picture was taken. I was handcuffed, put into a police station cells, and 3 hours later released. And when I was in jail, I realized something in that 3 hours. I laid down and went to sleep on that cold cement slab. And when the cop was kicking me, waking me up, I thought, no wonder why there's so many Indians in our prisons in Canada and the US. Man, They closed the door. My mind changed. I didn't have to worry about rent, cell phone payments, food payments, laundry payments. I had no worries. I'm free. I'm free. I'm free. How long are they going to hold me? I don't know, but I'll write my memoirs and come out, sell it, and be a millionaire. So during that high stress time, this is where I leaned up here and I was able to get on my feet again financially. I got a P1000 Nikon worth $1,500 when I bought it for Sasquatch investigating. And I've been like that ever since. Lean, mean, getting a paycheck. Don't have my ex-wife no more. Thank God, she's an evil ex-monster from hell.
No.
And my children don't talk to me, so I don't have to worry about them. I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, just like I was in that prison cell back then. So you got to go with the flow of things in life. And with Sasquatches, sometimes because Kwakwaka'wakw, God the creator, dictates that every pack has to have a younger male topple the clan family leader and take over the clan tribe pack, so to speak. Well, sometimes when we get kicked out of the house and told to get the F out, and we want to see our children, we got to go to court, pay child support, have our wages garnished, and we snap. We grab our gun, we put the banana clip in, we load up a duffel bag full of clips, we walk into where we work and we start machine gunning everyone, killing them. We go rogue. We go postal, as it's said in North America. So some Sasquatches, when they're displaced like that, snap and go psychotic killer. I've been to their killing fields. I've seen areas of dead bones of coyotes, turkeys, deer, dogs, cats, just killed for the sake of killing. Sure, some of it might have been eaten, but it just smells like maggots and carrion. And you beat feet and get out of there, because that's the killing fields of a rogue. And it will not hesitate to come after you and pop that skull like a zit, open it up and suck the brains out and eat the flesh from your body.
Here's a question for you. Will a rogue ever not be a rogue? Can they actually reformulate inside of another pack if they're like fighting? Because I've heard of like Sasquatches, like alpha, they fight over the pack, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a way that
one of them, say the pack leader gets displaced during the alpha battle, and a new alpha comes in? Well, the old alpha is not allowed to see his children, not allowed to copulate with his wife, not allowed to be in the territories, and they go solo, find another mate, establish another clan. That's the normalcy.
Okay.
But some of them snap. 2008, when my wife pointed to the door and said for me to get the beep out in Haida Gwaii, Queen Charlotte Islands. And I loaded up my vehicle, Jeep Cherokee, with my bush weapons, fishing gear, carving tools, books, and clothing, and drove back to Vancouver Island. I had one thing on my mind. I was going to find those two SOBs that sued me, and I was going to do deadly things to them.
Yeah.
But when I pulled into Campbell River with hate and rage and red fury building on Vancouver Island and $11 in my pocket, I was going to go to the pawn shop, sell a few things, buy something to make me do my deed, buy a jug of whiskey, and I was going to go execute my deed. But when I pulled into Campbell River, there was a hotel that the Christian manager would put monthly quotes on. And that month, when I pulled in there, it said, success is not defined on how high you reach. It's how high you bounce when you've hit rock bottom. Quote, saved a couple SOBs. And I've been bouncing ever since. And I never snapped and went rogue. But if I did go rogue, I'd be dead. Because no way you're putting me in a crowbar hotel. And if not, I would have probably done my deed and gone into the bush and still been living like a Sasquatch. And, like the police said to me decades ago, I had a bench warrant for my arrest for a traffic ticket. They said, we went in the wintertime, your driver's license says place of residence, Village Island. We went there every month. You weren't there. I'm like, well, of course not. It's wintertime. There's no windows and doors on the building I stay in during the summer. I said, I was watching a logging camp, got heat and a paycheck every day.
Yeah.
And when I go rogue and go to bush and go Sasquatch, ain't nobody going to find me. And if your drone comes after me, I can shoot a running bear at 300 yards. I'll shoot your drone down. I shoot a 338. I shoot a bazooka.
When you spent over 200 days in the bush out in the wilderness, and you kind of how were your senses? Were they just on off the chart? Were you part of the bush itself? It was
Get your nose hairs wet. Absorb the aroma and scent. Just like a dog or a coyote or a wolf, tiger, lion licks their noses, or a Sasquatch licks their noses. You get your nose so attuned that it's your best sensory thing going next to your eyes and your ears. I don't have a right ear. It's blown out from being a grizzly bear hunting guide by my clients, squeezing trigger before I put my earplug in. So I have no right ear. I got hearing aids, and my left one works pretty good. But when you're in bush and when you get crispy and go bushy, your sense of nose and sound, and when you walk, you look at the Sasquatches and Patty's thing, and the 2 Sasquatches I seen in Omaha Indian Reserve, that's their feet. The soles come up vertically. And the reason for that is, as you see, I'm doing a rolling pattern like a wind, a breeze. And that's where your footfalls go. So you don't make noise. And you roll your heels, step on your heels and roll, another trick. So you learn to be what instinctually we all have. We were Sasquatches at one time. Picture a Neanderthal, Caucasian looking like it came from the banks of the Thames River, just like Jesus Christ. What a misconception that is. Jesus Christ 2025 years ago comes from Jerusalem. He said dark skin, curly hair, and different facial features instead of looking like he came from London, England, banks of the Thames River 2025 years ago.
Yeah.
And that's Sasquatches, and that's what I'm trying to change. No beard. But if you shave a Sasquatch, it'll look like Neanderthal. Put hair on Neanderthal, it'll look like a Sasquatch. So DNA chromosomes, the capital D small r period before the names with alphabet soup afterwards, are telling us now that you can find Neanderthal chromosomes in human DNA from Europe and Asia.
Yeah, there's a location here with so one of 6 known Neanderthal arrow flint working sites. It's in the main town, a place called St. George's Park, and it's one of only 6 known in Europe where Neanderthal were making flint arrow heads for hunting. Unfortunately, it had a grove of trees on top, and there was a cat there called Zeke who enjoyed the grove of trees, but they put a supermarket on top of this location. And I had to, the cat I made friends with, and the cat didn't like anyone else. He knew that, like, but yeah, I think the correlation there is absolutely spot on.
So now we're into tools. Here's a stone I found at the edge of a beach, and up the beach was not 300 yards was a swamp with ducks in it and other birds. And there was numerous accumulations of decomposed and fresh bird feathers. That's a bird killing stone that the Sasquatch was using. I found numerous there. I took one. In an area where there was a lot of Canada geese that would go on the grasses and the estuary, we would find ones this size, Canadian geese, Sasquatch rock killers. In an area where there was a convergence of 3 or 4 different deer trails, we found a bigger one, which was for dispatching deer. In an area where there was a lot of elk activity, we would find them, and still do, this size, round stones. And in head of an inlet where there was moose, we found moose size killing round stones.
Wow.
So in the areas where those came from, there was no round stones. There was no beach with surf area coming in for millions of years, nor any rivers, creeks, roaring, rumbling, rounding rocks. And there was no abandoned Indian villages, but way down below on the beaches, where our people would bring them in to heat them up, to boil water in baskets and boxes, and heat them up red hot and boil canoes to flare the gunnels. So these ones came from hunting areas. So they're not from my ancestors, other than the Sasquatch ancestors, but they're being imported into areas of high yield hunting. So I teach people What we can do with a single shot rifle, iron sight, a Sasquatch can do with a rock. Generally, the 20 caliber rifles, like 22, 222, where the distance ain't that far, as is a rock with a Sasquatch isn't far. But what we can do with a rifle, they can do with a rock. So that puts a whole different perspective on Sasquatches. So when I was in Omaha Indian Reserve working for the tribe down there and Sasquatch investigating as well, it was on like Donkey Kong. We got 16 FLIR hits of Sasquatch. It was so on at night when I wasn't working. And yeah, that was from a shellfish beach in British Columbia, a FLIR hit of a Sasquatch on the beach at half tide rising. 16 minutes, 40 seconds, we recorded that one. I hold the standing record for the longest night vision FLIR video to date. Hopefully someone will beat me with a crispier one, but that's what it's all about. So in Omaha, one thing that got me every time I went out for a cigarette every 45 minutes or hour, tree, downwind. Next day, downwind. So what it was a scout watching my cabin, because of 11 cabins, I'm the only human there during the afternoon and nighttime. And when the Sasquatches, Tongas are out harvesting, hunting, doing their thing, humans outside, everyone take cover, don't move, watch out. And then I finished my cigarette, go back in the cabin because it's 97 degrees. I had to be in where the air conditioner was when I wasn't out investigating. But the Sasquatches down there is so thick that the Indian tribe has a curfew from 11 at night until 7 in the morning. So the tribe members don't interact with the Sasquatches, the humans of the night. That's how on it is.
Wow. I also I found some of these also interesting that we also had DNA that was submitted for Bigfoot.
I don't follow it because, in all honesty, it's 2025.
Yeah.
Look what they did with Dr. Melba Ketchum.
Well,
here she is with a capital DR period before her name, and she had death threats.
I know.
And most of the community of peer sciences, whatever they call the term, ridicule her, condemn her. So in 2025, they come up with conclusive proof of DNA correlating to Sasquatch being human, human being Sasquatch. Tom was right. The Indians were right. We know where we come from. And 2030 comes around, some capital D R period before their name with alphabet soup afterwards is going to announce everything in 2025. So I don't even bother. I know what they are. They're humans.
This was a 1975 Washington State U.S. Army Corps of Engineers did this in a book for indigenous species in the area, and they have Sasquatch in it as being an indigenous species of Washington State. I mean, they also have like pinpointed locations of where they found all the spots of all the trails, and I mean, see right here, mythical creatures shouldn't be mentioned in the atlas, but they are because it's not mythical.
So five years ago, roughly, Stephen Major, that is Sasquatch Portlock, Return to Portlock, Alaska, Sasquatch movie. I don't care for him much as a human, but I was hanging out with him for a spell there a few years back. And he invited me to Spokane, flew me out there for a Sasquatch radio show. When I got there, he said, "Oh, this man wants to meet you with his son. We'll go have dinner and beers." So we went. As soon as I met this man, I won't name him, he said, "Here." And he passed me that back then was the biggest iPhone cell phone I'd ever seen. And he's watched this video. And when I was watching this night vision, high military level night vision apparatus videotaping from a helicopter just over treetop, here's this big Sasquatch running, looking at the helicopter. It goes right, it goes left, it goes right. And the next time it goes left, it jumps, legs spread, hair moving, muscles, fear in its face, looking at the helicopter across 15, 20 feet of a creek. And all of a sudden the video goes to snow. I watched that 6 times and I pushed it to the gentleman and I said, "That Sasquatch was machine gunned with that Gatling gun from that helicopter." Yes. He goes, they heard you talking on a podcast about the Gatling gun was invented by U.S. country for mowing down Indians to clean the plains and states that would become to eradicate the Indians. They have been perfecting the Gatling gun to where it is right now with high vision night optics in helicopters that can calm the rotors down so they're not making a lot of noise. And when I go outside for my cigarette here in Forks, Washington, and I hear the gunships going into the Olympic Peninsula, where fall, winter, early spring, there's no humans out there in the middle of the Olympic Peninsula. I fear for the Sasquatches that are on the Olympic Peninsula, and they're being Gatling gunned by helicopters. And there's a reason why we're seeing an increase of urban edge Sasquatch activity in our backyards at the forest edge. The Sasquatches are being hunted in the deep forest, and some are migrating to the edge of the humans for safety. Go figure, getting the safety from us because we're hunting them out there. And why are we doing that? The same reason why they mowed down the Indians. On the way of development of agriculture, industry, urban development, railway lines, pipelines, fracking, farming, and government already knows. You know, I remember 1991 going to Alert Bay, coming off the ferry, driving up the hill to my cousin Joey Wilson's house. He's a master Kwakwaka'wakw artist to this day, but we were just punks, young punks. And I pulled in 1991, went into his carving studio, and he's, hello, hi, you doing? Oh, Art Bell. Turns on the FM radio, cranks up the volume. Who the hell is Art Bell? I didn't know who he was. And we're listening to this guy being interviewed who was at a military installation where President Reagan was doing the Star Wars project. They built a railway line in a trench, and they put ceramic tiles over top of it, over 100 miles in this base. And what they were designing was an underground railway system with ICBMs so that they couldn't get a direct hit, the Russians or Chinese, on it. And whenever it needed to shoot, it just simply lifted up its missiles, punched through the ceramic tiles, a little bit of soil, launched to the enemies, and moved on to another location without being intercepted with a direct hit. Well, those tunnels are now in late 80s abandoned. This guy retired or got kicked out of the Air Force, but his job there was monitoring the surveillance cameras in those tunnels at that base, and witnessed numerous Sasquatches living inside those caves, bringing in bedding, bringing in food, families in there. And he's talking about all the stuff he observed. He knew he had a non-disclosure agreement, you know, court-martialing if he said anything, so he can't. But now he gets kicked out, dishonorable discharge. So he's like, you, Air Force, I'm telling this story. And he was telling that story, how he witnessed how the colonel finally said, okay, we got to do something about these Sasquatches. They put barriers up, and when they knew they were in the caves, because the surveillance cameras, they gassed them, knocked them out, watched gurneys go in, lift these Sasquatches up, strap them to the gurneys, and out a picture frame, brought somewhere. The government knows what Sasquatch is. Mount St. Helens retrieving dead Sasquatches, BS, bunkin' BS. Sasquatches were too smart. My family who lived down there were witnessing Sasquatches 2 weeks prior to the event, running past northwards, screaming, yelling, vocalizing, getting the hell out of Dodge because Mount St. Helens was going to blow its top. So no Sasquatches died in the blast. They're too smart. They're Indians. But government knowing what they are, they're sitting there and they go, you know what, damn Tom Sewid, every time he goes to buy the gas station, every now and then he pulls his cell phone out, Big Brother's listening, and reminds us, gas is $4.33 a gallon in Forks, Washington. Multiply that by $1 million, cash, $100 in smaller denominations, bring it to Vancouver Island to the Kwakwaka'wakw gas station in Campbell River, which is on Indian Reserve. We'll meet you at the picnic table. Go inside the gas station, buy a province newspaper so you can timestamp the video and me signing off I will not speak about Sasquatch ever again in my lifetime, but it's going to cost you $4.3 million. There's a day Big Brother might show up at my door, men in black, men in blue in Canada. Okay, we're going to meet your goal. You get this many millions of dollars, sign here, never talk about Sasquatch again, because I'm telling it like it needs to be told. Sasquatches are humans. The government knows they are humans. So if and when they say Sasquatch exists in North America, it's actually the third recognized Indian tribe of the United States, next to the Inuit in Alaska in the north and the North American Indians in Alaska in the lower 48. And Canada, it will be your fourth recognized Indigenous tribe, because you guys have your Inuit in the north, you have your First Nations, which are Indians like Tom. And recently, and 5 years ago, Canada recognized Métis, the mixed bloods, which are called Cherokee in the US, as an Indigenous tribe. And the Indigenous tribes of the two countries of North America, 2 in the States and 3 in Canada, we're in the hundreds of billions of dollars. My glasses are free. My contact lenses, top-end gas permeable, free. My dental, free. My health care, free. My children in university, post-secondary education with a monthly paycheck of $1,800 is free. I need to go get trained, so I want to be a flagman on the highway, covered with my accommodation, because I have to go take it in Canada at a hotel, and my food, free. We Indians and Indigenous of North America cost hundreds of billions. The last friggin' thing the governments want is another damn Indian called Sasquatch. Because if you live in Colorado or Montana, and great grandpappy came in the wagon trains and established 8,000 hectares of your ranch, and you raise cattle, but you got 300 hectares of trees you want to knock down so you can plant alfalfa, to put on semi-trailers, to be brought to the airports, to be put on jumbo jets, to be sold to the Saudis for their Arabian horses for obscene amounts of money. That's why when we fly in airplanes, we see all those round circles with sprayers in all the states and provinces. Most of it's alfalfa for the rich people. It's not food for the humans, because greed drives us. So now the government has to recognize Sasquatch. Well, they're going to make it so that you're that rancher or whoever else who wants to build urban development condo units, mow down the trees. You want to put that pipeline through. You want to put that expanded railway line through because there's a new mine opening up. You want to mow down those trees for alfalfa. You're going to have to fill out an environmental Sasquatch assessment and evaluation plan. That'll take you a decade or more and cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars and millions, and you will never get that stamp of approval. You will be tied up in bureaucratic red tape and BS, and you'll never get to do what you want to do in what I just mentioned. So that will affect our GDP, our gross domestic product. Right now, we're in alarms because this morning in the economic stuff I follow, I was reading that India is now going to surpass the GDP of the world over the US. They're going to, 2026, they're projected to be 17.26% of the GDP of the world, whereas the United States will be at 9.6. That affects our GDP here in the US and in Canada, the spinoff. And so establishing the recognition and identification of the third and second Indigenous species of North America, Sasquatch, better to do like they did with them Indians with the Gatling gun back in the 1800s. Battle a little wounded knee, greasy grass, and the list goes on. We were eradicated in the tens, hundreds of thousands. In Canada, they introduced the smallpox-infested blanket and distributed it by the rail cars to the Indians in the central and west of Canada to eradicate us. Did a good job with some tribes, 100% eradication. My Kwakwaka'wakw Nation, 98% of us vanished from smallpox.
Wow. See, that's crazy. Like stuff like that, stuff that you're doing is wonderful, like preserving the knowledge and everything. Like going out there, you've got the boat, you've got the expeditions going, you've got, everything for you. That's what you should be doing. And that I'm, my hat's off to you, sir. And these are some photos that I found when we were in the woods. Me and my wife, we were in the woods, and we came across this structure that was in the woods. It's just a little structure, but it's the actual the actual putting the sticks the way they were, I was like, there's no way that this is a human that did this. Or maybe it was.
Leave it like that, and then maybe reflect back to the other one where your wife's standing in front of it. I'll explain what it is. So what it is horizontals with leans are a message. We can only speculate what it means. We got to have the Diane Fossey Jane Goodall interaction and communication before they can tell us that. A horizontal means from this area beyond, or this area where it's pointing, whatever. We don't know. We can only speculate. But what that is, if you study, as I said, the anthropological path and culture and heritage of an Indigenous people, where you're going to investigate and form that protocols and permission with them, and hopefully kindle friendship, you will know that every tribe in the Americas, it was taboo for a man to be around female blood of menstruation or birthing. So even when I was a young man, had girlfriends. This one girlfriend, I'd come home after 3 weeks in the bush being a grizzly bear, black bear hunting guide, and I'm running up the porch. All I want to do is, yoo-hoo, gonna go pump some uglies. As soon as I get to the top of the thing, door's locked. Window opens, passes out. Here's your uptown or closed, Tom, meaning to go restaurants and bars. You don't want to be in here. I'm on my monthly. Yeah, okay. Grab the bag, sort of pretending like I'm sulking. My truck, jump in, get around the corner. Yoo-hoo! I'm free. I'm going to nightclub tonight in the strip joint. And I couldn't be around female blood. I couldn't be in the same building as her, floor, room, bed, let alone, because if I get contaminated with that female menstruation blood, being close to the odor and have that odor with me, the animals will pick up on it. Something bad could happen. There's stories of grizzly bears running out at women that are menstruating and shoving their nose in their crotch and flipping over their head, and others of them being mauled and so forth. So all animals shove their male noses up the cooch of a female, and their tongues out, and they've got an erection. It's the animal kingdom. Get it on. Bumping uglies is all about strengthening the species, and men are pigs, period. So looking at that, I won't go near that. I'll go with right where the picture's taken, where you're standing. That's as close as I'll get to it. But I'll make sure I'm upwind of it. Because there was a female Sasquatch in there birthing or menstruating. And some tribes still do that. On Vancouver Island, one of our tribes, which is pretty big, they actually will put some of the noble ladies that have first menstruation into a wood hut like that inside one of their smokehouses. To this day. So that's how ignorant the white people are of the Indigenous culture and heritage and society's practices, even to this day, where we got cell phones and I can talk to you in England with a push of a button.
Yeah,
so Sasquatches still live that way. So when a Sasquatch is out walking, hunting, harvesting, scouting, all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, got to get upwind of that tree structure. So I don't see or get contaminated by the female blood that may be in there at that time, birthing or menstruation hut. That's what they are. So when I see pictures of guys going in there and sitting down or putting their face down and smelling, I'm just like, oh, gross.
And
you idiot. Start showing you're a man.
There, right? When I didn't go inside, but I peeked my head in, right? And I'm looking in, and there was these there was like maybe four little sticks. They were like, maybe they weren't very long, maybe about from your elbow to your finger, but they were all pointy at the end. Like there was four of them. They were pointy, but they were on the bottom. They were like up against the side. Could this be like a juvenile working with something or trying to fiddle with something or doing something? Because there was four of them in there that were like sharpened, probably as big as like from my elbow to here, and it was little.
Female digging stick. We call them, in my language, we call it a tach. A tach is a yew wood stick about 5 feet long that the woman used to dig shellfish and to dig roots. That sounds like tach to me, digging stick. So female. Juvenile, would a female with a juvenile child in menstruation be there? No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Would it, so it's a woman's digging stick. She's got that structure big for a reason. You look around there. There's all kinds of food within 100 yards of that, 60 yards of that structure.
And there's
so she's
also
hungry.
a stream
She's got to
right
go out
now.
and dig up roots and whatever. And in turn, if a male Sasquatch comes and sees the structure, it probably vocalizes or tree knocks. And she acknowledges. And he gets the hell out of there. He doesn't want to be around that female blood.
Yeah,
so don't ever, if you're a male, go in there.
Okay.
Come back with a female, let them go in and do the videos and analysis.
Okay. Well, hey, that's
also
what,
what you're doing now when that Sasquatch is watching you and it sees you men go up to it and go, oh, upwind, upwind. Tom says we're not allowed to go near their videotape, take pictures. We're 30 yards from it, leave, come back the next day with a female. All the men go upwind. The female goes in and does like this picture analysis and the valuation and recording evidence. The Sasquatch, I like these hairless white people. They're showing respect. They're showing understanding of our culture and heritage. Maybe I will go sit with their fire and have a s'more with them. So that's how you got to think. You got to think like a Sasquatch.
Respect goes
by
both
most
ways.
Bumbling, stumbling people who call themselves a researcher. Number one, as soon as they use the R word, they're full of BS. Their eyes should be brown. You know, there is no Sasquatch researcher until you get the picture of the Sasquatch in the cover of National Geographic with an editorial with you in there that you actually did like Diane Fossey and Jane Goodall. Then you're a researcher. Until then, we're all bumbling, stumbling, hypothesizing speculators. And that's what I am. I'm a Sasquatch investigator.
But you know what, though? The Indian nations, they have more knowledge than we will ever have on the Sasquatch.
That's what I said in the beginning of the talk.
Yeah. I don't even classify myself as an investigator. I'm totally new to this. So like,
that's a rogue.
Yeah.
That's
yeah. Okay.
See the misbehaving children in a sack. There's one of the tribes. I asked permission. I said, is it all right if I do a creation of your family story about Sasquatch being a male and shoving the misbehaving ones in a sack? And she said, and she was a noble lady. She said, yeah, you go ahead, Tommy. Just don't use our name or say what family. I'm respectful. I won't. But she allowed me to use their tribal's family story of a male Sasquatch using a sack woven of cedar fiber. And the bad children are in there, and you can see their hands and feet sticking out.
No, boy. Yeah, that is wow. A lot of stuff, sir. A lot of stuff out there.
Oh yeah.
Now
yeah.
Now, as far as Sasquatch goes, are they guardians of the forest, messengers, teachers? What would you categorize the Sasquatch as? Shaman. Okay. Now, when you were in the woods and you had all this stuff happen, right? And now, all right, when you were in the bush and you spent all that time out there, was there any, because there's Sasquatch and there's supernatural and there's UFO, and somehow they all connect together. You know, the Sasquatch will, you know, I seen a flare picture on a Bigfoot hunting show where the Sasquatch was right behind this bush and you could see it looking up. It looks up with the flare, goes down, and then all of a sudden it shrinks into like this little ball. And like it, I don't know, is it connected?
That one is actually Sarah and Jonathan Brown Salis Sasquatch.
Yeah.
No, it didn't turn into an orb. What they went with did truth analysis the next day. It was a channel river, small stream bank, and there was a ledge, and they speculated that was up there on its knees looking at them, and there's cows all around on the flat, and then it went down again. That's what it did. So right there, someone sees that through their FLIR, and then another person sees a Sasquatch, and it didn't turn into an orb. It jumped through a portal. And another person sees a Sasquatch, and it cloaked. It just vanished.
Yeah.
Cloaked, like the movie Predator with Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
And another person goes, oh, it was so scary. I watched it go through the bush into a field, run up a ladder into a UFO, and shot off in the thing of light. It was in a UFO. bunk and BS. What it is the mental band-aid. When someone gets in a plane crash, a tragic car accident, war, raped, sodomized, you don't hear them every time you see them. Oh, it was so traumatic. There was body parts all over the place. When that person was molesting me, this took place. You never hear that. Why? Because the mental band-aid, may the God, the creator above, makes it so that we have that mechanism. My neighbor and dear friend passed away last night. The last 48 hours, I was telling my wife about the passage. Oh, yeah, he's kind of going loopy right now. The cancer is probably spreading from possibly because they found lumps in his neck, spreading into his brain now. That's why he's getting all talking about stuff that took place and yada, 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 rambling. Yeah, he slipped. He's in peace now. Okay, he came out. Now he's talking to the grandkids. Yeah, it's Ekegekame, God's way of saying, okay, you've got a few hours left. You might want to get on that cell phone and say your goodbyes and loves to your family members and hear from them, loves and everything. And then last night, yeah, they say he's going to pass away tonight. 45 minutes later, Dennis is gone. That's Ekegekame, God's way of easing the pain and speeding up the process of death. But here is the pattern of establishment that's happened for thousands of years. Sasquatch, when you see one, is the most scary, terrifying thing you can ever witness in your life. Trust me, I slid over that bench seat to Dad going 70 miles an hour in a pickup truck, worried about hairy arm coming through the window. Like that's going to happen at 70 miles an hour down the island highway. And the other times I got close to them, my heart was pounding so hard I couldn't hear. My legs were shaking. My throat got dry. And, I was just terrified. And I wanted to shoot it, but I knew that respect and my tribal upbringing means I cannot disrespect Sasquatch. So I'm not going to lift my gun or even take it off my shoulder. I'm just going to look and turn and walk away because he's shaking a tree and telling me, get the heck out of here. And I did the respectful thing and got out of there. But I never saw it turn into an orb, cloak, portal, jump, fly a UFO, and mind speak with me. Oh, great Sabi tells you have
what
to
about
turn and leave.
working with other creatures? Because I've heard a Bigfoot will use coyotes or something to drive animals.
Let's get to that in a bit.
Okay.
But let me finish this.
Yep.
So the mental band-aid, that's where what I classify as woo-woo.
Okay.
So if we go to the conferences and they get up and all us critters get up and go out and have drinks and smokes because we don't want to listen to a woo because it's all bunk and BS because they got so scared their mental band-aid kicked in and they came up with this grandiose explanation of what took place. But on the spiritual side, Sabe, from many of the native tribes that call their Sasquatch Sabe. I had someone last week reach out to me and goes, you should be calling Sasquatch Sabe. I'm like, no, you should be calling Sasquatch Dzoonakwa. I said, I'm a Kwakwaka'wakw. We call it Dzoonakwa.
Different
Whatever tribes
different
call it
meaning,
Sabe, to Sabe. I will not use Sabe because I don't have any understanding of Sabe because I'm not from those tribes.
Exactly.
But I'll call it Dzoonakwa and bring out my understanding. So with the woo-woos, it's a mental band-aid. And I've seen orbs in the forest. They were ghosts, they looked, because it was a village site abandoned for hundreds of years or actually almost 200 years that they died out of the late 1790s smallpox epidemic. So that's what orbs were I saw. So for the tribes, though, that have that spiritual understanding, connection, beliefs, and perspectives of Sasquatch, I totally respect that. My tribe does too. But it's from my understanding, the spiritual times, the supernatural times.
Okay.
And Sasquatch, in almost 30 close encounters of them being around me, within 5 feet of me twice, within 20 feet of me 6 times, I have never had a woo-woo supernatural encounter. So if you're looking at one of the few humans on North America, Sasquatch Islands, who's had a lot of encounters with Sasquatch, and they've never witnessed the woo-woo aspects, and maybe we should be looking at that in the scientific viewpoint of Sasquatch is, as Tom believes, just a critter. And as late Dr. John Bindernagel taught me, let's just confirm the existence of Sasquatch. Then we can dwell onto the other aspects and characteristics it may or may not have.
Yeah.
And that's the path I follow.
I like that because it gets away from all of the misconceptions, because that's why I definitely wanted you to be on this podcast too, to explain that the misconceptions too of Sasquatch, because there is a lot of stuff out there, like you said, a lot of woo. But now there was another question there. Do Sasquatch do they use other animals to help them hunt, or like I've heard of coyotes, like Sasquatch and coyotes sometimes they'll work together or something?
I think it's, as far as us having a canine as a pet and a hunting tool, I haven't heard of any encounters that close. But in the Pacific Northwest, the third week of April, the turkey vultures will come in from the south. And Vancouver Island, here on the Olympic Peninsula, 2 years being here, I see them come in about the 10th of April. But they have to wait for optimum wind cycle and heat so they can spiral up, and like cranes and storks glide to Vancouver Island in the north, because you have to go across 30 to 40 miles of open water to get to Vancouver Island from Washington State. So when they do get to Vancouver Island, a lot of them are going along the highways because all the roadkills get their food. They like carrying. But some of them, when I go up the hills, when the snows are receding, that's what I look for, because I go towards those circling turkey vultures, which eventually will draw in the eagles and the ravens. And when you get close, there might be whiskey jacks and ravens already working it. But there's the snow, the refreezer lid opening up. The snow's receding. There's the dead ungulate or marmot that died, didn't come off the mountain when it should have. The elk or deer or marmot died of natural causes, but snow's exposing it. A lot of mice, like that's why you see the foxes jump and go down into the snow to get the mice. Well, we did an analysis one time where we cut the snow up in an alpine, and it exposes all the rodent tunnels. And the guy was actually telling us that a lot of the rodents will die in their tunnels from natural causes, parasites, disease. He's even documented one place where when they were doing the digs in half an acre, this is how many dead rodents they found. And they had analyzed the dead mice and found out it was some virus that swept the community in that region. But as that snow's melting, those dead animals are being exposed that the birds come down on. Well, can you imagine an elk that broke its leg? We just saw an elk not 3 weeks ago here with hoof rot, and it was stumbling and falling. It couldn't walk. And I was just like, ooh, if I didn't have to work tomorrow, I'd be here all night with my flares waiting for the Sasquatches to come get him, because it was prime Sasquatch area. That's what happens. Sasquatches see the birds, they zero in on the carrion. So a lot of people go, Sasquatches eating carrion? Every indigenous tribe, even in England, the English guy told me that they would shoot the pheasants and ducks and hang them by their necks without plucking or cleaning them in the barn or basement. And as soon as it decomposed to a point where the head separated, next morning when they go in and see the bird on the ground, then they pluck it, clean it, and eat it. It's a delicacy. Are you kidding me? That's rotten bird. You go to northern.
I used to help
Inuit places
into the sky.
They eat stink flipper, and they take seals and clean them, fill the gut cavity with water birds, sew it back up, bury it in the tundra, and leave it there for months and eat it. I could imagine what it smells and tastes like. I wouldn't want to be downwind of that. My tribe takes oologans, the candlefish, puts them on the ground for 8 to 10 days to soften the flesh. Then we boil it and draw the oil out, called Claytona, oolagan oil. It's Indian ketchup. We japa, dip our smoked fish and our potatoes and our berries and herring eggs and you name it. It's Indian ketchup. Kwakwaka'wakw First. I love it. If I gave it to you two, you'd probably start gagging and retching. But it's a delicacy to my people. Vegemite, Marmite. My girlfriend used to eat that stuff. I couldn't even be in the kitchen when she opened that jar. So what we consider rotten foods carrion was actually a delicacy to every tribe in every continent except for Antarctica. And even the Plains people ate decomposing buffalo buffalo jumped into a river or lake, froze, spring thaw, bloated animals are down there eating it. It's documented in the Lewis and Clark journals. So when snow exposes the alpines or anywhere and there's carrion, Sasquatches in some regions, it's been documented, are going after carrion.
Okay. And I know now, question for you also, sir. There has been now Sasquatch at night. They can see different light spectrum than us. I understand that, because they're nocturnal, they can see at night probably, but question, can they see infrared light? Because apparently when people go out and they put trail cameras out, they avoid them like the plague. Like they can see the infrared light that comes off of it, and they're like, no, let's avoid that.
So we got about 30 trail cameras in our team here on the Olympic Peninsula. Of course, I ordered a few, drinking wine at night. Temu. Don't drink wine and go to Temu. Costs you a lot. But anyway, picking up trail cameras is $16 to $23, 4K and better. Found out that they work great. They're just not waterproof. So if you do buy them, you got to put them in a waterproof protection. Under what we're using is L brackets and shelves on trees. We put it underneath there with moss on top so he doesn't pick up the sounds. But anyway, we also got offered to buy some military X called obsolete stuff from Desert Storm. Replacement value would be about $40,000 to $60,000. We bought it for a few $1,000s, our team, and we've turned darkness into daylight. Even though I had a bunch of cheaper FLIRs, $700 and $300 units before that. But one of the things we found out was on these cheap Temu trail cameras, we took one of these new scopes we got, and as we walked around the corner of this area where our trail cameras are set up, this one was strobing, poof, poof, poof. And you'd see this greenish, the infrared greenish night vision light up the forest like 30, 40 yards inside. And the next day when we analyzed the data card, what it was constantly activating. So it was like tripping. And just because there was an electronic malfunction, probably got wet. But we saw that big green flash. So we suspect, because of all the years I've been using trail cameras, the only Sasquatch, even though it's a blur squatch, I have, is I put numerous cameras up in a very tight funnel neck. Big cliff leading down to a cement log landing abandoned 40 feet below, steep cliff going up 80 feet, this little old chip trail for skidders to bring the logs down 40 years ago, now overgrown. It's now basically, when it rains, a creek, but a tunnel by bears and deer, elk and Sasquatch, and us going up and down it, put trail cameras up. But in the neck, I put numerous cameras and bait. Well, when we went in there, put the bait out, because we hadn't had any yet, I don't believe in the nylon straps, because in the forest, everything is vertical and splayed. As soon as you put a horizontal, like that tree structure was a horizontal, that one stick, that's what caught my eyes. It's a sign. So, because it's not natural, horizontal in most cases. So nylon straps, no. So I went to a big cedar stump, 3 meters high, dug out, because it's soft and punky, a hole, put my camouflage trail camera in there. When I walk in there with the bait and other trail cameras, my trail camera's gone. Buddy tries to walk in front of me. I grabbed him. Stop. What are you doing? Look down and track. Yeah. Man up out in bush, dude. And sure enough, you can see these big impressions in the moss. And there's my trail camera lying on its back. So we walk up, grab the trail camera. I'm like, yeah, those are Sasquatch tracks. No elk tracks. And look at the card. And 3 or 4 pictures, spinning trees where it was knocked off the cedar stump. And the last one is a Sasquatch standing over my trail camera, leaning down with its right arm. Smile for the birdie. I caught your black ass. And I got my Sasquatch, but it was daytime, so it wouldn't have seen that white or the light spectrum when it ignited. And so I'm now at the point where I'm going to get it. It's curiosity killed the cat. Now we're dealing with cell phone trail cameras that I can pick up and see what was recorded on my cameras. But now we got the new 360 trail cameras that will be deploying between now and Saturday. And curiosity kills the cat. I'd like to share some of the things I'm doing outside of, other than I'll say we're doing a lot of fruits and veg, peanut butter, because peanut butter seems to work. I used to believe that, humans get peanut allergies and can die. Don't be stupid and do it to the Sasquatch. I'm at the point now, there's so many people having success with peanut butter that screw it. I'm going to do like Stanley Norm and I'm going to go use peanut butter. And because curiosity and hunger killed the cat. So there's another thing I'm going to be doing, but I can't say what it is. But when I do this, I think curiosity is going to get the Sasquatch to be going.
Good.
Come on, really? Now I got to go check that out, even though that thing's flashing a light, and hopefully that'll work. And the other one is walk barefoot, toughen your feet up. When I lived in bush for decades, I used to always, most times, be barefoot, unless I was in the abandoned native village because it was a lot of invasive Himalayan blackberry, so a lot of thorns. But when I was in forest, to walk stealth, quiet, barefoot, best way. That's summertime anyway, nice and warm. And you get used to it. You toughen up and man up.
So where were you when you got this cast of this footprint?
That print was given to me by my boss, Ken Hamilton. It's a reproduction of Patty.
Oh, wow.
And that was actually, it's in my front yard in Kent, Washington. My wife and I have a condo there. But the picture you showed earlier of all those casts and frames. So we lucked out a month and a half ago. We got notified by my wife's friend that there was this private collection of casts that this gentleman made over 16 years. And when we read the post, he got Dr. Jeff Meldrum to make them. That's why they got Jeff's signature gray color to the cast. And then he put them in display cases with the provenance, the new paper clippings and copies of pictures and things like that. So he's selling the thing. So I phoned him that night out of the blue. Oh, I've sold 2 already. Okay, I'm buying the whole collection. Where are you? Oh, Moscow, Idaho. Okay, I'll just I got to get my money together and everything will be there in a couple of days. Me and Peggy jumped in the car, drove out there. We went 50-50 with the owners of SasquatchLegend.com here in Forks. And we bought it cash on the barrelhead. And 38 casts, I believe, altogether. And we even got the butt cast of that female Sasquatch. You can actually apparently see the vulva outline of her vagina. On the butt cast where she sat in mud. We got the Eric Shipton Nepal cast from the 50s, Mount Everest. Josh Gates, the Nepal cast. Patty, of course. Freeman, the white ones you see there. The Bossburg, Washington cripple foot. Titus or whatever his name was back in the day. Tom Slick, and the list goes on. And we're going to have it in our Sasquatch Museum along with my Dzoonakwa masks and regalia, as well as my Bokwus, the little keeper of the ghost world mask and Bokwus. And it's going to be a museum, like, hopefully comparable to my buddy Cliff Barrickman down in Boring, Oregon. He has a great museum. Just that ours is going to have a little bit more native Indian culture and influence. Like these masks right here. The green one is Bokwus. The black one is my original Dzoonakwa. And other art I have. Oh, I forgot about that raven feather I made years ago and sold. But yeah, we'll have a lot of my native art in there. All the originals in the house will be in there. And then I'll be the main museum piece, because the plan is when you go into the museum, I'm going to be walking with you, giving you a narrative. And we'll have video pictures of our regalia, masks and fur regalia in the ceremonial big house with the vertical house beams carved of Dzoonakwa Sasquatch, and my native family members drumming and singing the Sasquatch song.
That would be awesome. I actually I volunteer out here in Pennsylvania. I do the powwow tour with with the Lenni Lenape Indians, and they come up this way, and I'm the security. I do that up this way in Pennsylvania for them. I love going to powwows and museums and just learning the history. It's so rich.
Well, go to SasquatchIsland.com, go to the conference page, share it with them on an email, and send them the video clip from YouTube where you'll see our regalia being performed out in the forest and inside a ceremonial big house.
Definitely.
And tell them they got casinos and big fat checkbooks. They have GoFundMe programs. Get Peggy and I out there to perform at the powwows. Then you get to see our stage performance.
Also, we can get all of your links, sasquatchisland.com, and all the other links for artwork and so on below this podcast. So if anybody's viewing, please take a moment to click on Thomas's links and have a look around all of the sites. I'm looking forward to hopefully, if I'm lucky, getting a Breaking Tradition print when that becomes available when it's finished.
And yeah, I mean, what would you like to talk about?
Biological break and cigarette break.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Take 5. Well, all right. So George, yeah, I mean, wow, that's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I think that I don't classify myself as a Bigfoot, Sasquatch, abominable snowman investigator. I'm interested in cryptids, cryptozoology, just like in the martial arts, going to source. And I think Thomas and his tribe and his knowledge and understanding is where you would go to that source to find out.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of modern conjecture, as he says, the kind of woo crowd coming in and saying, oh, it's this, it's that. I'm not sure where the correlation between the supernatural comes in with this. This is a very real phenomena, physical individuals, and with their own customs and abilities and the ability to understand. But earlier in the podcast, I did ask about a supernatural link, and certainly in some of the older stories, there are, kind of amazing things associated. But I think, it's so far it's been really insightful, and I'm learning a great deal. I can only speak really to my ancestors having shame on their shoulders for upsetting the harmony of these people and peoples. So it's with respect always.
Yep. Researchers from this is
University of Buffalo.
Yep, genetics for the Sasquatch. They actually got it down to, now if I can get it here, because I'm gonna have to share my screen, share this window. Hold on. All right. This should be, now let me see if I can zoom in. Nope, that's not it. Remove that, add that. Now I can zoom in.
The story of maybe taking, like when Thomas said he heard that, a voice saying, let me go, let me go. That gave me chills down my spine. But then the old images of the basket on the back, and then come to take the children away or steal them. It reminds me of in Europe of Krampus. That's Krampus, Krampus, which is also kind of like a shaggy coated humanoid character from.
I mean, they did long DNAs of it all. They did. Then they came out with something like that.
Okay, phylogenetic tree with primates.
Yeah.
Tree. I think like when the helicopters going overhead, trying to shoot these creatures, take them out. I mean, is it? That's wrong. If they're real, they're real. I mean, I'm assuming these things are real. I've not witnessed one myself. Many people haven't, but certainly the First Nations people have understandings that Western people don't have.
Oh yeah.
And I think if we're up there in helicopters shooting at these things, that's atrocious. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Thomas.
Hey, welcome back.
That was interesting. If anyone's interested, they can email me. You guys will put it at tom.sewid@gmail.com. But if they request a copy of my PDF, it's about 30 pages. It's the Chance Encounters and Investigating of Sasquatch Recommendations for Guidelines and Laws. And so what I did was, because I was one of the first humans to do a commercial-based whale watch in North America and British Columbia back when I was 15 with a Zodiac inflatable boat, that same summer I would be the first human to ever do grizzly bear boat tours in North America, taking people up the inlets, up rivers to see grizzly bears going after salmon. The following year I was the Indian guide for the first ever sea kayak and fiberglass sea kayaks with whales in the world in Johnson Straits, the orca realm of the world, British Columbia. So I was part of those industries being established to be in multi-million-dollar industries. But we knew that the government would come and shove down our throats regulation and law. And they would do it like a bureaucrat with no comprehension, clue, or understanding of those animals. So what we did was we formed alliances, groups, associations. And I even recommended we call our association, the Northern Vancouver Island, Bears Environment and Resources Association, which the acronym would be BEAR-ASS. And we'd sell t-shirts. So anyway, we'd form these groups and we brought our recommendations for regulation and laws to the government, and they followed suit. They came up with the 300-meter, 300-yard exclusion zone where a pod of whales is swimming. You can't get within 300 yards of meters of them. You can't cross their path or chase them. If they're sleeping, you can't go within 300 yards of them. Grizzly bear is the same thing. We used to go grizzly bear guiding, and we'd be on the riverbanks with shotguns. If anything went sideways, there's going to be a dead bear. Never happened, fortunately, but then we established that we had to build bear watching towers, which were bear proof to protect our clients. So doing that with these multi-million-dollar industries, I do Sasquatch expeditions. I've put 22 people on Sasquatch to date that actually see them. One of them, a British professor from the University of Simon Fraser in Vancouver, who with a night vision Apache goggles was looking at our fire into the forest at our cabins. Oh my goodness, it's a bloody Sasquatch. I'm actually looking at a Sasquatch. It was so cute with his British accent. And I had another professor of Indigenous plant studies, Dr. a good friend of mine now, and she was like, oh my God, I'm looking at a Sasquatch. And I'm looking at it too, going, I used to call him Scout. I think I'm going to call him Elvis. His hair is all long and slicked back and oily like Elvis Presley in the 70s. So now his name is Elvis. So with the guidelines for Sasquatch Chance Encounters and Investigating, it's the recommendations I have in there, such as we learned from COVID, personal safety equipment. So bring gloves and get masks with you so that if you do get close or you're upwind of a Sasquatch, put the PPE on so that we don't contaminate them. Because I was the one that famously released with Wes Germer, Sasquatch Chronicles 5 years ago or so, Sasquatch and Smallpox, where the podcast was all about the encounter reports I have from Indian tribes of coastal British Columbia and central Canada of Sasquatches contracting smallpox, influenza, tuberculosis, and Spanish flu. Even during COVID, I got word with the Moccasin Telegraph internet, Sasquatch or Facebook Messenger to Indian tribes that were interacting with Sasquatches that we may be contaminated and sick again and dying. Grab 4 big sticks, go outside half hour before dark, start coughing and retching like you have COVID. Snap the stick above your head. Half an hour later, do the same thing 4 times. To pass the message on, the breaking of stick is warning to Sasquatch and them to us to heed the warning, we're maybe sick again. Leave.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It was 3.5 years in one tribe's territory before the Sasquatches returned after COVID. That's how much they heeded the warning. So with the recommendations. I'll be glad to send it to you. It's all in there. And hopefully
Oh,
we
yeah.
as a community of Sasquatch enthusiasts can get word to our government, state, provincial, national, that you need to sit with us and establish regulation and rules pertaining to our encounter activity and where do we go with Sasquatch.
With
We're
Sasquatch,
gonna eventually
the first thing we
Yeah.
need to do is protect them. They need to be on the endangered species list, number one.
They're not endangered. They're proliferating like bunny
Or-
rabbits, like we Indians. Since 1967,
Oh,
Patty,
okay.
the encounters of Sasquatch are increasing with the establishment of TikTok outside of the AI BS. We're seeing a lot of pictures and videos and vocalizations and tracks of Sasquatch and structures.
So they're thriving.
Sasquatches in every state and province and territory of North America are exploding like us Indigenous people. There
Okay.
was 800 people in my Indian tribe when I was born in 1965. I believe we number over 5,800 now. So if that's indicative of every Indigenous tribe of North America, Sasquatch Island, well, Sasquatch are just members of the other tribe.
Yeah.
They're proliferating like bunny rabbits as well. Hence all of the increased encounters and sighting reports. So we have to have regulation put in place to protect them as a species.
Yeah. 100%. Laws, regulations, and protected land for them.
So-
land that we can't go in,
Right now here in the Pacific Northwest, Tom Cantrell, he's a good friend of me and Peggy's. He's also very well known in the Sasquatch circuit, podcast, videocast, Sleeping Beauty, or whatever it's called, movie, and so forth. Well, he's making this transition now to go to the other side, if he hasn't already done it since yesterday. But he's a good friend of mine. But he got to sign this 2 months ago.
Oh, wow.
That is the famous Foot of Fame. We got Peter Byrne, Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Dr. John Bindernagel, Tom Cottrell, and everyone else pretty much that you see on TV.
Oh, wow.
Bob Gimlin's on there. Raymond Yakalea, who's no longer with us. Red Goringer, he's no longer with us. Cliff Barrickman, Charlie Covington, Montana. Jeff Meldrum, the Olympic Project, Adam Davies, Todd Neese, should erase that one, Thomas Steinberg from Canada, and the list goes on. That's the famous Foot of Fame. And a little bit of history about it. My good friend, I drew it. My good friend cut it out in his bandsaw I do native art with. And my plan was to carve a Patty 352 relief on there, 3D, and have it as a standing ornament to sell. Well, I went to Todd Neese's Beachfoot, I guess 2017. Well, Peter Byrne and Bob Gimlin were there. And got my tent, the big canopy, my table set up, and I got the blank foot wood sitting there. I looked down from the pavilion, there's Peter Byrne and Bob Gimlin. They look like two kids caught in a cookie jar. What the heck are those old buggers up to? So I go running down. And here they took a Sharpie pen and signed their names on my foot. And I go, I got to keep this forever. I got to call this my Foot of Fame. I can't carve it now, but thank you very much. And I put lawn chairs out, and I sat with Peter Byrne and Bob Gimlin for an hour and a half in the summer sun, chattering away like three Sasquatches. My God, priceless to sit with those two old guard. And since then, I've got everyone else to sign the Foot of Fame. But I make Indian design foots. You'll see it on my art gallery page, but I sell them in the store and online at sasquatchlegend.com. And what they're for is for you to buy. You got my signature on the back. It's already got some fame there. And then what you do is hang it on your wall. It's a ornament, a keepsake.
Yeah.
Or bring it or mail it to all the Sasquatch celebrities. And I've talked to them. I say, oh yeah, just tell the people that buy your Foot of Fame to send it to me and I'll sign it for them. And, just have a self-addressed envelope or box and I'll mail it back to them. But you too can have your own Foot of Fame. It's something to have, keepsake, memento of, all of us that are in this industry.
Yeah.
And then this one right here, I'm working on. That's Dzoonakwa, the wild woman of the woods. So I'm going to put a hair on its head and everything. It'll be painted black, carved with relief and U forms, painted red and black. And it'll look all mean and wild. But I'm going to trick it up. Instead of being a smooth ceremonial mask like that, I'm going to put wrinkles on the forehead and around the mouth, because when I've looked at Sasquatch up close. They've done this to me. And you see all the wrinkles
all
and
the
everything.
wrinkles.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Make it look like they do when they actually look at you close. Scares the bejesus out of you.
I wonder if Sasquatch Dzoonakwa smile, or is this this is definitely a warning, stay away? Is he showing how powerful?
Like,
yeah.
Well, 2004, I built my cabins on Vancouver Island, east side. Me and my son drove up from Sewid, about 40 minutes up to the cabins, walked down the trail, down the hill of hell. And we're there with our golden lab cross bush dog land claims. And I was working on the porch of the cookhouse, and I had my 30-30 with me. My son, who was 2005, so he's 5 years old. He's down on the low tide part of the beach, digging in the sand and plucking limpets off the rocks. They're chitons. He's just being a kid, enjoying himself in the spring weather. My dog land claims was sleeping at the top of the beach, but guarding my son. All of a sudden he stood up, hackles up, looking to his left up the bank. That was land claims. So I grabbed my 30-30, I put it beside my body, and I walked down. Watch Hunter, watch Hunter. So he's going towards my son, looking to the left. And as I got down the beach, looking to the left, there's a big fir tree about 3/4 of a meter in diameter. Standing beside it was this big cinnamon brown male Sasquatch. And he's just looking at my son. And as I walk down, I look up at the Sasquatch, eyeball him. Yo, Dzoonakwa. Hello, I don't know who you are, Sasquatch. You leave my Wisabidu, my little boy, alone. He's not doing any bad. You have no reason to be watching him. That Sasquatch just looked at me. Turned, boom, 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 up the hill and disappeared.
Almost like an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a pissing match. So that was 2005. 2006, I did some sea kayak trips with whales there. I had my big 32-foot aluminum tour boat with native designs on it, anchored out in the bay, doing our activity all summer into early fall. That's the yacht we use out of Vancouver Island, my buddies. But anyway, brought my sister in there. She wanted to see my cabins. They've been there a year now. And I had my native 17-year-old worker and my 20-year-old Dutch sea kayak guide from Holland, Hugo. So we get to the camp. And I told him, I said, we're going to be here for tonight, hour and a half for dark. It's going to be a 16-foot high tide, which is big. Before high tide, I'm going to cut all the driftwood logs. Some of them are 3 foot in diameter, 40 feet long. I'm going to cut them up with my big husky chainsaw they make. Yeah. Cut them up. And then when high tide comes with hip boots and chest waders and aluminum pike poles, we're going to push the logs out into the water. And the tide's going to take the logs out of the bay. And when low tide comes, we're going to have gravel and sand for the sea kayaks for the 3 days down the road expedition we got coming. So we do that in 2 tanks of gas, put the saw down, it runs out. I'm sweaty. I go, whatever his name was, Ryan, throw me a Pepsi. He passed now. But anyway, Ryan threw me a Pepsi. I opened it, took a big drink, sat down in the folding lawn chair, put the drink in the holder. And all of a sudden, behind my cookhouse, 2 cedar trees about that thick, they start shaking. Almost like you see a phantom on a ghost movie from Hollywood, shaking away these 2 trees. And I look at my dog, Land Claims, get him. He runs up the rock bank. He looks behind into the 2 shaking trees, and he goes, does the 180 in the air, lands, tail between his legs, blonde streak, going across the logs that are floating, jumps in the dinghy, and I'm looking at the 2 trees, and all of a sudden this big boulder, probably 3 meters big by 2 meters high, comes rolling down the bank right behind my cookhouse. I'm like, Jesus, what the hell's going on? So I'm like, okay, don't look at the distraction. Look around. So I look to my right, behind my cookhouse, not 30 feet away, standing in the V of trees, is this Sasquatch. First thing I do is look at him and go, okay, branch above his head. Remember that for a measurement? And all of a sudden, he just looks at me. And man, I'm just like, Hugo, where's my gun? Out on the tour boat at anchor. Well, give me an axe or a machete. I look at my sister, get in the dinghy. And after they give me the machete, you two get in the other dinghy, get out to the boat. And I'm, being the man, I got to protect them. And I got a big aggressive Sasquatch not 30 feet from me. And I'm backing up, get the cookhouse between me and him. Her and my sister's trying to be Jesus Christ running across water. I'm like, slow down, you're going to break your leg on that driftwood. She gets in the dinghy. I finally get in when I see Hugo and Ryan in theirs. My sister grabs the stern line going from a tree to the stern of my boat to keep the bow in the waves because it's blowing like 35 westerly, 2-foot waves coming in. She starts pulling it, and the duck punt dinghy almost topples. And I'm like, slow down, you're going to flip us. We get close to my swim grid, about 6 feet. My dog jumps, the big, brave, fearless bush dog, hits the swim grid, half on, half off, scrambles up in the open door. I go into the bow to grab my .338 rifle. There's my big, brave dog, tail between his legs, shaking. I grab the gun, go on deck, load her up, just for safety. Hugo, Ryan, cut the lines. I got the motors going. Throw the lines away from the boat, the side line, stern line. Yeah. Last one is the anchor line. Cut the buoy loose, and I'm going to pull out without getting rope on my wheel. So we get out of there, but I'm on the back deck before that. And you can see 2 big alder trees behind my camp shaking. And you hear roaring. There's like 3 or 4 Sasquatches. Got us out of there. So I pull out, and it's big waves when I get out of the bay. I go to my sister, and them, I go, we can't go back to Sewid. The waves will be mountains down there because of the ebb tide. Let's go around the corner. We'll tie up to there's a big ship, ex-rail transport barge anchored out, used as a breakwater for the westerly wind legs, blowing for when he used to dump logs and scale them out there. So my sister's, no, I don't want to go there. And I said, fine, I'll go across the channel and I'll go to Port Neville to the government dock where my friend lives, postmistress. So as I'm going across, we're big waves going across their backs, 3/4 them. And I grabbed my cell phone, bag phone, I phoned my dad. I go, we just got chased out of the camp because of Sasquatches, Dzoonakwa. I said, this is what they did. I said, phone our chief speaker, our elder, Adam, and ask him why Dzoonakwa did that. And then all of a sudden, I remember going on this big wave. We're like 18 feet above. And I'd look at my sister, look out of your window, see how big that hole is? And we come down, poof, in the water like that. That's why I'm not going to Sewid. We might not make it. We're going to go to Port Neville to the dock. All 4 of us stayed on the boat that night. I got the blankets from my friend up there. Get to Sewid the next morning, no wind, flood tide anyway, so we can make it, no big seas. And then Louise jumped in her car, and she's never gone back to my camp, nor has she gone camping again ever after that. But I phone up my 2 buddies, and I go, look, this is what happened. Oh, one buddy goes, I'll come up from Camp River with my shotgun. So my other buddy in Sewid, Bushman, he's no longer with us no more either, but my good friend, Walt, 3 of us drive up my pickup truck. As we're going up there, I'm drinking a gallon of water out of a plastic jug driving. We get a mile above my camp. The westerly wind is blowing from my driver's side left to right. A mile above my camp, all the alder trees, 6 inches in diameter, about 28 of them all told, have been pushed into the wind onto the road. I had to use my chainsaw, Walt and I, cutting our way through 28 trees and clearing them. Now we go down the hill and get into above my camp. We walk in. As we get to the top of the hill of hell, I take my first pee because I was drinking that water. And as we go down the hill of hell, we start shooting shotguns and rifles. I'm walking around my cabins, peeing all over the place, shaking my arm. I'm not leaving. I am staying here. Pull it out and pee again. Been at peace with those Sasquatches ever since. What I said earlier in the beginning of this talk is all about pissing higher up the tree trunk than the Sasquatch. It's always a pissing game between you and the Sasquatch. And you got to do it respectfully, but you got to do it aggressively.
Okay.
You always got to be the one that pisses higher up the tree trunk.
All right. George, I'll leave the last question to you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
I'm going to say one more thing, which is if anybody has any questions for the guests, please come out with them now, and we'll tag them on the side. And then when George is done with his last question, we'll come out with them, and we'll give Tom the last words of the podcast. Go ahead, George.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Thomas, yeah, it's so living in proximity with Dzoonakwa, Sasquatch, they're territorial. They're working. We've discussed like small loose knit groups, perhaps, and rogue elements, rogue ones going off. Do you think the one that causing you to get onto the boats and get your rifle and run away, was this a rogue one? Is this how we, how you deal with the pissing contest by saying, this is my territory, not yours? We live together in harmony and respect, but you have to meet the kind of otherwise could the if you became like lower down on the pissing level, if I can call it that, right? If you didn't react the way that you do, does the Sasquatch then become more dominant in the area, and it could be potentially dangerous?
I wouldn't say potentially dangerous, but like a lot of people, like we're doing investigations with now, people having big hits against their house. What they're telling you is,
we're here.
Salmon rivers are blowing out, floodwater. Can't get the salmon no more. Elk aren't around here right now. Deer are thinned out because you damn hunters shot them all. Feed us. And I'm telling people, bring out the peanut butter, the fruit and veg and berries that we can get in the grocery store that they can't get because it's out of season. They might get aggressive where they're throwing things at you and an aggressive nature. They're just telling you, hey, we're at the river fishing right now. You leave, let us fish. If they want to throw something at you and pop your head like a zit with a rock that big, you're going to be a steaming turd in the forest. No one's going to know about it. You'll be in missing 411 because they'll pop your head. They'll stove in that chest. And territorial, anthropological perspectives, understanding, writings of the indigenous tribe whose territory you're going to study it, investigate it. All of our tribes stayed there for thousands of years. We Kwakwaka'wakw have been there since the dawn of creation, since we were transformed from animals by the transformer into human beings. So we've been there for hundreds of thousands of years. Most tribes are like that until they were forced out of their states in the US and traditional territories in Canada by the colonialists and newcomers. But most of them are in their true tribal territories to this day. Like my tribe and others in British Columbia and so forth. So the Sasquatches understand the native language from that region because they've been there for tens of thousands of years and have had that communication, as we've established in this podcast, with the Indian tribe. So that's how they're tribal. So they're going to have their teepee structures up. They're going to have their structures against rock walls. I've even seen their structures against a cement overpass on a riverbank.
Oh, wow.
Roadways some 60 feet up, but against the cement, there's a big lean-to structure of sticks. That is a Sasquatch is going upstream and downstream. See, that's either a tribal boundary between lower and upper river tribes or boundary marker because there was a shallow water riffle. And as I've established and educate native tribes about in Canada mainly, is I came up with a formula. How do we identify how many Sasquatches in a given area region? Well, to go into the pubic hair of North America, the forest, ain't going to happen. Only John Bindernagel, Paul Freeman, and Independence Day and families shooting rifles and shotguns in a rotten snow field and a helicopter moving around out of frame, but you see a Sasquatch wrong along the edge, and a couple others of the only ones who've really gone into the pubic hair of North America, the bush, and actually videotaped or taken a picture of a Sasquatch. The majority of good Sasquatch, my 16 minutes, 40 seconds FLIR video on a low tide beach, Vancouver Island area. My 3 minutes 40 longest standing video of a Sasquatch in daytime to date, Omaha Indian Reserve at the ends of a freshly cut soybean field or cornfield. My FLIR watching a male and female, pregnant female, as very pregnant for about 2 minutes, freshly planted nighttime soybean field, Omaha Indian Reserve. And others are all in open riverbanks, fields, alpine areas, beaches. So stay out of the pubic hair, but know that you're going to come across these areas with boundary markers, tribal territories. When you hear mass vocalizations, like the YouTube clip of the husband and wife with their 2 dogs sitting in their pontoon boat on trailer at night with their transmission in their truck blowing while they're sitting there in the forest at night videotaping, and you hear mass vocalizations. What it is like us Indian commercial fishermen and non-Indian that would go to the ports through my lifetime as a career commercial fisherman in British Columbia. You walk in a bar and all of a sudden someone at the pool table, Tommy, hey, get up here, let's have a beer. And all of a sudden someone stands up, Tom, you and I should go outside again. What for? I beat your ass last year. You want me to do it again? Hey, you're tier structuring. You're putting each other in places. You're converging in a communal area, a bar, pool tables, tables with beer, dancers on stage. Some are enemy, most are friends and family, and people are going to become new friends. So what happens when you go to a bar nightclub? What's the main reason? Is it to sit there and hug your fellow male? No, it's to look at that Sheila over there and go, I'm planning to bump uglies with her tonight. Hello, my name's Tom. I'd like to talk to you. Next thing you know, you get in a hotel room with them. That's what drinking and nightclubbing and bars and cabarets and dances are all about. That's what powwows, potlatches, rendezvous in North America with the Bushmen with their buckskin and black powder guns and raccoon hats. Everyone converges annually. All the young people and old people are out there in the tents and trailers and campers and bushes bumping uglies. Ekame. The strengthening of the species. We must not interbreed. So mass vocalizations of Sasquatches are like, I'm this clan, I'm from here. This clan, and we're from here. And after it's all done, there's no weapon or blow or fighting, no injury, no death, no abscess, gangrene, because vocalization of body posture has established the tier structure. So that when they bring the elk in and the moose and the birds,
they already know.
It's like my clan of Kwakwaka'wakw. The Wallace Quagyo tribe from northern Vancouver Island eats first. Then the Mamliacha tribe, my tribe. Then the Numgis from Alert Bay, and so forth down the tribal lines until all 16 clans have full plates and bellies.
Okay.
That's tier structure, and that's what mass vocalization is, and it's all based upon, I come from my territory. So yes, Sasquatches have their tribal territories because they are just members of the other tribe.
Oh,
okay.
Well, just thank you. So like before Jason carries on, I just want to say a personal thank you, Thomas, for talking to me, educating me about the Kwakwaka'wakw people, First Nations, and the tribal systems. Obviously, I'm based here in the UK. We lost our way. We have great shame, but maybe, you know, in the future we can all work together and in safety and harmony investigate Dzoonakwa, Sasquatch, and live together in harmony.
Yep, absolutely. To all the viewers out there, halakulisla. Go in peace.
Thank you, sir. And we'll get a hold of you because we're also going to be transitioning to our summer schedule here soon. So I'd like to actually come out there and visit you in person and see these spots and see the spots you went to and visit these locations. I'd probably be the first one out there. Like, let's go. Like,
yeah.
Retired Army, you know, I respect nature though, respect places I've been in, you know, don't leave anything behind you didn't take in there before, you know, and you take everything out you brought in. That's the way you should. But yep. I thank you, sir, for being here. And anytime you have anything you want to bring out and any new stuff coming out, if you have a new documentary dropping or anything, get a hold of us. We'll put you right on.
Will do. And invite me on anytime. Got more. We should talk about Bokwus anyway, little people.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So much more to, I think,
thank you so much, sir.
One last thing, Jay. Yep. Sorry, in the description about section, all of Thomas's connections with SasquatchIsland.com. Just to reiterate, please go and check out, get some artwork, and support the initiatives that Thomas is putting forwards. And the protocol, I think you mentioned a free PDF with a step-by-step investigation protocol system, which should be implemented as well. So I'm gonna email you, try and get a copy so I can read through this. Maybe it's the beginning, a small ember turning into a fire of an investigation into these Sasquatch humanoids roaming. But yeah, always in peace.
Yeah.
And don't forget, you want cool shirts like this.
Yeah.
SasquatchTheLegend.com, this online store and store I manage. But I better get to work. Thank you very much. And as I said, Alakulisla. Go in peace.
Thank you, sir. Yep. All you have to do is just hit the leave studio at the bottom, sir. If you have to go.
Thank you so much, Thomas.
Thank you, sir. Yeah. Oh wow, George. Like I'm telling you, oh man, happy, joy. Like we could have talked to him forever. He has so many stories and just the wow.
It's you know, like in the West, we you know, some of us have tribes and ancestry and things, but this it's broken. It's the stories are lost. But First Nation peoples, in respect and harmony with the land, but you know, it's sometimes I feel like that guilt behind me, and you know, I think the stories, the older stories and wisdom passed down is something we can all learn from.
Yeah, definitely, man. And all right, so right now we have a couple of podcasts pending, not scheduled yet. Paul Ruiz is going to be coming to join
come back.
Again.
Awesome.
For I believe Cosmic Consciousness is called. So we'll get a hold of that one. We've got Las Vegas Spaceport. I'll be scheduling with him soon to get him back on because I was actually down that day and had to cancel. So, and the other one would be we're still waiting for the Tedesco brothers. They're supposed to get back to me sometime this week. They're looking at sometime this week. They're going to get back to me on when we're going out to do the live stream investigation with them in Pennsylvania. Other than that, I don't think I have a lot more going for you guys, except for if you're enjoying it. They're only, the memberships are only $1 a month, and even if you can't, it's fine. You're a member of the podcast. You're helping us. You're helping us shine a light into these shadow areas because everybody needs better information out there. Everybody needs the information that is credible. I mean, come on. You have so many people out there giving you BS that at least we give it to you straight.
We try and go to source where we can. Bring the facts.
And just for the Air Force, right? This is for the Air Force people out there. Hide your secret planes in the hangar.
What's that? That looks like a that's the Dark Star, isn't it?
Or yeah, the Dark Star, yeah. So found that picture on the internet. That was kind of funny on a like right outside the hangar, like hide your secret aircraft. So we'll end the podcast with that. Air Force, hide your secret aircraft. Keep it under, a hangar. But other than that, guys, you'll be seeing us come out with some new stuff. If you want to join us on the Discord, we'll be in the Discord. We'll be in the Discord channel right after this. We talk about experiencers. We talk about research. We talk about new guests coming out, photos, videos, podcasts. I mean, research, you name it.
Big shout outs to everyone who's tuned in today. Planet Popstar, random content, Bigfoot fades. We've got Mascotizardos, hola. Anonymous Rex just plopped in. Hello, thank you so much for supporting us. And please depress the like button gently and don't ruin your mouse. And also D Nits in the background there. Thanks for becoming a YouTube member. Much, much appreciated.
Yep. Our membership, like I said, it's only open for $1, but hey, peace out. And we will see you guys in the Discord channel. We'll probably be talking about Tom, and we got a couple more, short video clips I could play in there if you guys show up or want to. We got Mr. Meowgi. You are silently judging my insanity. I got it.
He's got his foot on the keyboard.
Oh, that's why. That's why. All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. All right. Have a great night, great day, wherever you are in the Galactic family.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for subbing also, Bigfoot Fades. I have a channel 2 and 2 sub. Oh, yeah, we'll check out your channel as well, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate you subscribing, and catch you on the flip side, guys.
Ciao, ciao.
Stay curious and don't hide under the covers.